Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to round 13 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series here from Chicagoland Speedway. Will Vincent and Doyle Johnson here for this race. And Doyle, we've got ourselves a nice big field here today after drivers have finally got themselves relaxed after Indy.
Yes, it's quite surprising. We got a lot of real big names in the field, and I think it promises to be a really great race today.
Well, our field for this race has been set. Young O, the 2012 iRacing Indianapolis 500 champion, lineups in the pole position in the number 10 machine. Young O with a time of 25.375. And Carlos Bonas Jr. will line up alongside him, Young O's teammate. In the number 82 machine, in the second position, Carlos Pascal driving for Slowpoke Racing. No, sorry, he doesn't drive for Slowpoke Racing, I'll take that back. Joseph Pascal and Yves Runner line up in row number 2. David Ward, Ryan Norton in row number 3, with Jonathan Goke and Randy Crosno in row number 4. Dan Lynch and Robert Carlson line up in row number 5, with Philippe Lambert and Nico Brandt in row 6. And then you've got John Ailes, Julian Pham in row number 7, Yana Matikayan and Alice Stevens in row 8, Alan Wilson, Giorgio Ponti in row number 9, and then Dave Jinks and Pierre Bourdais rounding out your field. Pierre Bourdais a 25.742. So all of these drivers separated by less than 4 tenths per second, and Carlos Bonas Jr. in second, Joseph Pascal in third, separated by 1/1000th of a second.
So let me ask you this, Will, on this particular track, Chicagoland Speedway, not one of the normal tracks that we see in the IndyCar series. What made the choice today to go ahead and add this to the series, and how do you think this is going to play out? Because we seem to have a lot of racers here interested in this racetrack. Why was that choice?
Well, of course, Chicagoland Speedway hosted the final round of the, at the time, the Indy Racing League back from, I believe it was 2006 through to 2008. Someone's going to quote me on my statistics that I've got that wrong there, but I know there was a period of time. And also 2009, 2010, 2000, it was some really good, close racing between a number of those drivers. With 16 drivers, I believe, was the case in 2010, separated by 1 second on the racetrack. So, historically, Chicagoland and IndyCar have gone hand in hand with some of the closest finishes in the entirety of Indy Racing League and IndyCar racing. As we're just going to have a quick look at the number 69 machine of David Ward. I think the popularity of this track for drivers today is the fact that it's not in the official schedule, and that means that, you know, drivers can concentrate on that, and in some ways it means that the team advantage thing that comes into play isn't as big because drivers don't have as much time to prepare for some of this.
You know, that makes a lot of sense too on this track, and I'm wondering, as we grid up here and get ready to start our pace laps for the race. In this track, I noticed I haven't had a lot of experience at this track myself, but I noticed that this is another one of those tracks that the inside line is going to be king unless you can get a partner to draft with you and hopefully push you around the outside. So what kind of racing are we going to see? Because the track is wide enough to go 3 and possibly even 4 wide. Are we going to see some of that racing, or are we going to see more of a single file type racing today?
I've been doing quite a bit of testing here myself, and it is possible to go too wide pretty easily. The difficulty will be, it seems like the car on the outside line gets to a point that as soon as they pull out from that draft, they hit that air wall, and what it means is it's very difficult for them to complete the pass on the outside line. They really do need someone pushing them behind on that outside line to be able to get the pass to happen. And that is where teammates could come into play. It's where tactics could come into play. That inside line is the preferred way around the racetrack. It is important, however, that drivers on the inside line manage to hold it properly. And if you're out front, it doesn't seem to be an issue. But drivers in the pack, that car does seem to like to tighten up quite a bit. As you see, the pace car is forming up that parade now. 1 lap of pace here at Chicagoland Speedway. Just a quick point of note, next week we have ourselves a schedule change. Rather than racing the road variant and then the oval variant of Twin and Motegi, we'll be racing the Indy Japan 300, the 200 laps of Twin and Motegi's road course next week. And then the following week, we'll be doing 58 laps of the Grand Prix circuit, just because our poor friend Yoni Backman here at Glacier really would want a break after using, I think, 4 races from the road track all in the space of 1 week. Meanwhile, Young O on the inside of row number 1. His teammate, Carlos Blanes Jr., in the number 82 machine, lining up alongside him. In fact, I have to take that back completely. It looks as though those 2 drivers have started from pit lane yet again. So,
yeah, that's what I was saying. It looks like they're going to start from the pit. I was wondering where they were.
So, Joseph Pascal will be leading the field here to Green Flag Racing. He's Warner in second, David Ward in third, Ryan Norton fourth. Jonathan Goke will round out your top 5 to bring the field to the green flag here. The pace car is about to make that turn down pit lane. Joseph Pascal Jr. waiting for it to do so. And as you see, that pace car comes down to the left-hand side. The field in the command of Pascal. Green flag in the air. And we are racing here at Chicagoland.
Great start by Joseph Pascal to get out in front there. So we're going to see what happens with those people that started in the pit.
Yeah, David Ward there, he has been working that inside line to try and put a bit of a distance between himself and Jonathan Goke, but they see Jonathan Goke all the way to the high side. Meanwhile, Ryan Norton overtaking Joseph Pascal Jr., as does Ease Warner. So move Ease Warner
into the wall. Oh.
I'd say move Ease Warner into the first position. The caution is out on lap number 1. And it looks as though your leader at the end of lap 1 is going to be Ease Warner in the number 88 machine. Ryan Norton will be lined up in second position. Just going to get ourselves a replay of what happened. It was way down in the field there.
Jonathan Goke got into the wall. It looks like David Ward and Jonathan Goke got into each other a little bit coming into that corner. I think what we're seeing is that push that you were talking about at the very beginning of the race. That driver on the inside line is going to have to hold it because he's getting that arrow push.
So as you see there from the replay, Goke was on the outside line, David Ward was on the inside. Those 2 drivers have had a couple of incoming togethers already in this series, both at Pocono and at Dover, and that is going to make life hard for Jonathan Goke early on his side. He's trying to get himself down to pit lane to try and get himself some repairs. His car, however, looks like a barbecue. And it just look, if you haven't one more look back, it's a case of Goke was on the outside line and all of a sudden, boom, there comes David Ward to the outside. And the 2 just lock wheels. Goke, a huge impact into the wall. Somehow, everyone else managed to get away with it. And some good checking up by drivers throughout the rest of the field there.
Yeah, and then, as you mentioned before, that's something they're going to have to watch out for going too wide. It's not the car on the outside, but it's the car on the inside because they get so arrow tight coming into that corner. So they're going to have to be very, very careful and maybe lift a little bit of the throttle or whatever. So it's really going to be interesting to see how many more of those we're going to have today.
So, Ease Warner currently leading the field round under our first caution of the day here at Chicagoland Speedway. A lap 1 incident involving teammates David Ward and Jonathan Goke. And there you see in the second position in the Make-A-Wish machine, Ryan Norton in the number 84 car, Joseph Pascal in the number 15 lines up in third with Randy Crosno in fourth, Danley Inch in fifth. So I have to say, first of all, a great start from Danley Inch getting themselves 4 positions on this start. However, Joseph Pascal Jr., even though he got the jump at the start of this race, lost out first and second position to Warner and Norton.
Yeah, he went a little high in turn 3 and 4 there, and that allowed Eves and Ryan Norton to get underneath him real quick just before that caution came out.
And I'm just having a look back to see, have a look at Pascal myself, and it looked as though it was there all the way down in the exit of turn number 3 by the look of it. No, sorry, on the exit of turn 2, Warner just gets a good drive off the corner, dives down to the inside line. Ryan Norton goes with him, manages to get a position. The caution lights come on, literally, as they were coming down past the start-finish line. And at the point where the caution light came on, there pretty much was nothing between those. As you're having a quick look at Eves Warner in that number 84 car, and Doyle, Eves Warner, he really wants to use this middle part of the season to get himself back into championship contention after being our oval and combined championship last year.
Yeah, and he's struggled quite a bit this season, so I think he's right where he'd like to be. He hasn't spent a whole lot of time up front so far this season, so it's good for him and good for other drivers like Ryan Norton, who has also not spent a lot of time in this season up front. So we're going to see if they can't hold on to that race and see what kind of an impact we have coming from the rear of the field.
Just to inform everyone that, as you see there, the green flag is back in air here at Chicagoland Speedway. That data that you see is for the combined championship. It does not take into account the oval or the road data. I saw that there on Ease 1. I currently sat with 243 points, I was believe, there in the number 88 machine as they're coming down through turn number 3 and 4. Ease 1 is doing a good job out front there, coming down past start finish line to put 5 out of 200 laps in the book. Ryan Norton looking very close there as they come down to the inside line into turn number 1. Warner looking racy, but Norton having to check up a little bit. You see him brush half lane high as he came out the corner there with Joseph Pascal in third. Randy Crosno laid back about 6 car lengths behind in fourth. And down the end, trying out your top 5.
And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Ryan Norton just kind of tuck in behind Yves Weiner there and then just try to log some laps and try to check out a little bit, because even Joseph Pascal's kind of hanging in there, but they are definitely creating a bit of a gap between the fourth place driver and Randy Crosby.
Yeah, the line last time by, the gap between Joseph Pascal Jr. and Randy Crosno was 6.5 tenths of a second. We need to get that gap up to about 9 tenths of a second before that draft starts falling away. So looking on board on the number 84 machine of Ryan Norton. You have to really be careful that, early on in this race, you don't push too hard. And what you do is you allow yourself the opportunity to push further and get yourself that clean air so you can fight later on.
And I think in this race, one thing that as with all Afterburn Series races is they're quite long. You have 200 laps that you have to put in the books here, so I think just about everybody realizes that now. They seem to be spreading out a little bit and trying to put on as many laps as they possibly can, without doing any kind of damage. Trying to get used to the cars here.
Carlos Bono Jr. just overtook Dave Dinks there just a moment ago. In about from 13th position, Young O coming through the field once again. He's looking to the inside of Julian Pham as they come off turn number 4. Pham using a defensive line there. That is going to force Young O to have to try and work the high line as they come down into turn number 1 and 2 again. Young O, who qualified technically on the pole position starting from pit lane, is so trying to find a way around Julian Pham. They're looking to the high side now. Looking to the high side, you've got Carlos Bono Jr. He's looking as though he's going to be able to come out and help out his teammate Young O in about a lap's time. But Young O is having to work that high line hard there. And you see that number 78 machine holding the bottom beautifully, and then just having to get out the throttle coming down into turn number 1. Young O takes a position, and this is going to allow Carlos Bono Jr. to run the high line as they come out of turn number 2. Job done there, and move Young O up into the 11th position. Carlos Bono Jr. in to 12.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we see a lot from Young O. I mean, they like starting from the pits and working their way through the field, through a lot of the slower drivers, and kind of, that's kind of their thrill, I guess. And we knew this was going to happen, but I think they're going to find a lot more competition as they move their way up the field a little bit.
Yeah, and you see that Young now looking down to the inside of Jarno Metike, and that'll be to get him up into the top 10. A little bit further forward, you see Nico Brandt there working down the inside of Joseph Pascal. I'm not sure, but it looks like Joseph might have got himself a little bit of damage there. I saw him get very close to the wall about a lap and a half ago. Having a look back, it does look as though he is just about okay, but struggling in the draft at the moment. He is moving further backwards, as now he is riding in the 6th position. So Pascal struggling early on here at the Chicagoland 300.
And he had such a great qualifying appearance out here, but apparently probably hasn't put in enough race laps in order to keep up with the field. So, that's kind of got to be disappointing for Mr. Pascal, but looks like the rest of the field is going to be coming up through there, because he's definitely off the pace at this point.
And let's not forget as well, in fact, his last lap was a 25.940. And let's not forget as well for Pascal that, in fact, he must have a little bit of damage. He's weaving that car there down the front straight away. Let's not forget that he might have set up his car to work more out front of this field rather than being stuck in the middle of one of these packs, which really is wobbling as he comes down the back straightaway. Really looks as though his car is struggling to hold on to it. I will go back and have a look to see whether he has had any contact with the one. You see there, too wide for the lead. Ryan Norton down on the outside line there. He's won it on the inside. Norton looking racing. He can get a good run off the corner and try and pinch Wayne down, but doesn't quite happen there. And now you see Ryan Norton. He's going to commit to that high line for another couple of corners. We see Randy Crosno there. He's currently sat in the third position, 5 times per second behind him. But Norton wants to lead this race.
Yeah, and you see they're going to battle back and forth, and we talked about that high line, how difficult it is to make a solo pass on the outside. And then you see Randy Crosno currently in the third position, who is just sitting back kind of waiting to see what's going on here. You can tell he's got in the back of his mind that these two might be getting into each other, and next thing you know, he will be scored position number 1. So he's probably waiting for that battle to ensue.
So 2 wide. This is what we're used to seeing at Chicagoland Speedway. You got Norton running that high line. He's giving a little bit of room to want it a little bit this early on in the race. You see, he really could go down about another half a car width even into the corners, but being a little bit cautious early on. These two drivers have been going 2 wide now for about 3 laps or so. He's won. It looks like he's going to get the better momentum off the corner to hold that charge off of Norton a little bit, but Norton just tucking back into the draft as they come down into 1 again. Caution out.
Caution's out.
Our second caution of the day here today at the Chicagoland Speedway, as we just had put 18 laps complete in the book, and it was David Ward again there in the number 15 machine, and I believe it's David Ward and Jonathan Goke again.
Oh my goodness.
And that one there looked more it was pretty much roles reversed there, and it looked as though this time it was Goke who got himself a little bit high coming to the corner. Ward was the one who lost out, so the 69 machine pretty much is going to almost be toast here. Deep in the replay there, Doyle. Turn number 3. Those 2 drivers were running very close proximity, and as I was talking about Norton giving more room to East Warner, in this case it looks like David was trying his best to get around that number 08 machine.
Yeah, and it looks like a combination. It's one of those racing events, unlike the other one where David Ward really pushed up the track. Jonathan Goke comes up just about a half a lane. David Ward comes down a half a lane, and contact ensues. Definitely, that's unfortunate that these 2 drivers cannot get close to each other without making contact. Hopefully,
we're going to have
cars.
Pit stops here, and you see both Warner and Norton dry out very late there. Randy Crosno stays out on the racetrack, so he's going to lead at least 1 lap. Drivers, pretty much everyone else is coming down pit lane, with the exception of Jonathan Goke and Nico Brandt. So Jonathan Goke is not going to be able to get his lap back for the moment, but we'll have a look at that race through pit lane. You see Norton and Warner both coming in together there, both stopping in their boxes. Warner came in a little bit further ahead, so he should be the first to get out. But this is going to be a very, very close battle. The first race off pit road. Warner gets it from Ryan Norton. And then in third position, that's the Coca-Cola machine of Carlson. And down the end, and then you see Young O coming out. He gets himself a couple of positions. And further back through the field, pretty much everyone was more single file.
That's an interesting strategy on lap 21 for Randy Crosnos, Nico Brandt, and Jonathan Goke to stay out on the track there. I'm not sure exactly what the fuel number is here, but obviously they're betting on more cautions before they run out of fuel.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's not forget the fuel window here. We did the math earlier, 65 to 69 laps for 1 full tank of fuel. So, let's not forget, they'd still have to go 40 laps without any form of incident before they'd even have to come down into pit lane. And track position has proven to be very key early on in this race. And if you want to get that track position, then by staying out on when all the others coming down to pit lane is one way of doing it. But at the same time, personally, I would have still taken the tyres. You know, hedge your bets. You might have got second from Norton. You never know. But I just think Crosno was caught off guard there. As we're looking, I think that Randy Crosno, he right now is just trying to outplay the field. He's currently sat 7th in position in the overall championship with 209 points. A solitary top 5. Randy had a very difficult start to the season. He ended up joining up in the booth one too many times, but I think that this is a good chance to try and get him going in this series.
Yeah, I think so. And kind of interesting to see. You've got Randy Croswell up front. That's the strategy he decided to deploy. And like I say, with that many laps before you run out of fuel, definitely not too big of a risk. But then you also have Nico Brandt, who is, one of our excellent racers on the roadside, who's really struggled this season as well. Now coming out, giving it a shot on the oval, and probably really happy to be scored P2, even if it's just temporarily right here today.
So your top 5, Randy Crosno, Nico Brandt, who also stayed out, Ease One, Ryan Norton, Russell Carlson, and down the end, Young Yo, John Ailes were in 5th to 8th position. I have to say that it's going to be interesting to see how strategy plays out here. And in the 9th position, Carlos Bonas Jr. moving up to the 9th spot. Junior Pham in 10th. Our first retiree of the day, Philippe Lambert in the 02 machine. It didn't look to he didn't have any issues. His car apparently just didn't want to turn.
Yeah, that was mentioned on the track. Apparently that his car is set up in such a way that open air was really how it was designed, so it's not performing very well in the pack and in the draft, and that's very dangerous, obviously, out on the track.
And let's not forget, these drivers do have some tools that they can use in their car to make changes on the racetrack. They have the weight jacker, which moves the weight in the car to help induce a little bit more looseness or tightness as the driver needs to. And they have both the front and the rear anti-roll bars as well. But at the same time, if you use the weight jacker too much, I found out at this track, you scrub your tyres, you get too much heat into them, and then it's that kind of ever-revolving circle of the cars getting tight, have to use more weight jacking. Before you know it, you haven't got any more adjustments you can make.
Well, yeah, and that can happen really quickly on a track like this, especially a track where you're trying to hold the bottom line like that, and you don't really have a lot of time for your tires to cool off in the traffic. So, well, let me ask you too before we go green here. What do you think? How do you think this is going to play out with Jonathan Goke being up here, currently sitting physically in the 3rd position, but being a lap down, and having the 2 previous leaders right behind him?
I think Goke wants to get his lap back, and for Goke, that is his main aim. He cannot rely on strategy necessarily here. You see the pace car pulling in. We're going back to green flag racing. Randy Crosno as your race leader, and for look out for Jonathan Goke. He wants to get himself into a position that he can get his lap back, if indeed he can do that, as we're going to have a look on board with him now. And that number 18, that number 08 machine, currently riding in the 18th position, 1 lap down, as he's trying to close that gap to Nico Brandt, currently sat in 2nd.
Yeah, and that's always something to look at when you get a car that's a lap down, kind of trapped up front, where he's hoping he can get his lap back and he didn't. That always kind of plays a little bit into the racer's minds, because obviously he's going to do his best to try to get around there and get his lap back, but at the same time that can be an extreme irritant to the drivers, being raced by somebody who's not even on the same lap.
So as they come down, we're going to have 25 laps scored complete at the line. You see there, Goke looking racy with Nico Brandt. He wants to try and get himself around Brandt and then hope that Randy Crosno ahead of him will just let him pass and save a bit of fuel behind. Let's not forget, Goke and Randy Crosno are former teammates. Goke moving over to Afterburn just a couple of weeks ago, but Randy Crosno and John Goke are still good friends. And do you think Crosno is going to help Goke try and get that lap back? Do you think it's in his interest?
No, I think Randy Crosno's going to run his race, and if Jonathan Goke's going to get around him, it's going to have to be on his own terms, so I don't think Randy's going to give up anything. In the meantime, too, we take a look just back in the pack real quick. Well, we've got Young O is now scored in the 6th position, and he's doing battle with Dan Lehanch back here, which probably won't last very long at this point.
I have to take that question all the way back to Randy Crosno very quickly there, as we're flicking, having a quick look at the years. He's got past Young O on down the end, easily into turn number 1, down the end in that number 52 machine. Young O in the number 10, that vibrant red and yellow car. I'm going to take it back to Randy Crosno. if Goke's being racy earlier on, Krosno needing the points in this series, is it a case of he's still going to be leading the race, but if Goke gets past him, then it's not going to hurt him at all, really, is it?
No, I mean, Randy had nothing to lose even by letting him by, but at this point in time, I think Randy's probably focus is... I think Randy's focus is to keep clean air in front of him as long as he possibly can, regardless of anybody else's situation on the track. I mean, look at Will. I mean, look at the gap. I mean, I'm actually a little bit surprised that Yves Wenner and Ryan Norton are not, really right up there in the front. It looks like they're laying back too.
So, Randy Krosno is still your race leader. Nico Brandt in second. Yves Wenner in third. And you see that Goke getting very close to the rear. Nico Brandt there as they come off of turn number 4. Looking down to the inside. Ryan Norton currently running in the 4th position. Then Young-O in 5th. Young-O is a 1.9 seconds behind 4th position Ryan Norton. So he's got a lot of work to do. His last lap at 25.648. Ryan Norton's last lap at 25.592. As you see there, Jonathan Goke down to the inside. That was Randy Krosno there on the inside, having to defend heavily from Nico Brandt. Nico Brandt looking like he wants to lead a lap here. Looking now to the high side as he comes down into turn number 1, having to cut back down, and this could be allowing Jonathan Goke to really close up to the rear of that 24 machine.
Yeah, and you see Nico Brandt trying to take a high line, trying to get down into the turn, trying to get some momentum there so he can come out of the turn and get a run on Randy just as he comes out the turn there, hoping to get underneath him. And obviously Randy defending that white line very well right now.
And what is very interesting is to see the drivers behind taking wildly varying lines, coming into the corners. Nico Brandt brushes up there, and that is going to allow Goke to try and close down. Nico Brandt looking down to the inside, having to defend that position. It looks like the drivers are looking for clean air wherever possible, coming into the corner to reduce that understeer, that push effect on the race car. And you see all that Nico Brandt moved himself up into the 3rd lane, Jonathan Goke all the way up into the wall almost, just to get that clean air so they don't get that dirty push as they come into the corner. So some very tactical driving going on out front at the moment.
Yeah, and I think you see, it looks to me like Jonathan Goke is kind of trying to stay with Nico Brandt in the hopes that he tries to pull on the outside line. It looked to me like Jonathan Goke was actually going to try to provide a push for Nico if he decides to go outside, which is obviously to his benefit too, hoping that he can get pulled back around on the racetrack.
So a little bit further back, Young-O has fallen back further. He is now 2.4 seconds behind Ryan Norton, currently sat in the 4th position. But that is simply because Young-O is riding by himself, and Ryan Norton ahead of him is running in the middle of this big pack. So that is the difference. That is why Young-O is having to really push to even keep that gap between those drivers at the moment. Carlos Bonas Jr. is about 4 tenths of a second behind Young-O. It looks like Bonas Jr. is just trying to preserve his tyres behind Young at the moment. But if those two get hooked up, there is a chance that they could push forward and start closing that gap to Ryan Norton, the rear of that 5-car field, if you include Jonathan Goke, who is scored a 1 lap down right in the middle of it. So there you see Goke looking down to the inside once again. Meanwhile, Yves Wenner currently sat in that 3rd position. He is falling back to about 4 tenths of a second behind this lead group. Ryan Norton a further 3 tenths of a second behind. I think Wenner and Norton both trying to, preserve their tyres just a little bit, hoping that Brandt, Goke or Krosno ahead of them do wear out their race tyres. You see there, pretty much 3 wide coming into the corner there from a certain camera angle that you're looking at it. And it really, really is close between these 3 drivers. This is the type of racing that we are used to seeing here at Chicagoland Speedway, with 38 scored, complete in the books now out of 200. And just to have a little bit further back through the field, we have got ourselves pretty much a bit spread out now for most of these drivers. So for the rear of the field, the only real battle is Carlos Bonas Jr. on Young-O. And you see Bonas Jr. really to the rear now of Young-O. This could help try and close down those drivers ahead of him, as we have our 2nd retirement of the day, and that is Joseph Pascal in the number 15 machine.
And Joseph Pascal was having words with another driver earlier on, a few laps back, so I'm not sure what happened with that. And, of course, me being the conspiracy theory, it looked to me like Young O actually waited for Carlos Bolanos Jr. To catch up to him so they could work together to try to get themselves through this pack, because I think Young O knows that trying to get by Yves Wanner and Ryan Norton and then even some of the other drivers like Nico Brandt and Randy Krasnos, this is not the easy part of their race as far as getting up through the pack is over. These other racers right here are very experienced. They've got good cars, so they're really going to have to race to get by these guys.
And to give you an update on Joseph Pascal, he hit the wall coming off of turn number 2. One of the drivers who was suffering from extreme push in their race car coming off of these corners. So his day is done. And let's not forget, we've always talked about how 2 cars are always faster than 1 on these 1.5 mile ovals, and that is a good strategic move there by Young. Yes, he's lost himself, half a second perhaps to the cars ahead of him, but you will gain that time up if you can work together. Although that last lap, in fact, they lost another tenth of a second. So Young O in the 5th position at the moment is struggling. But that number 10 car, we have seen just how dominant he can be. So I think there's still a little bit left in the tank for that number 10 machine, and he can use pit stops to make some adjustments to his race car to try and bring it back into the fold.
Absolutely. I really do think they're kind of getting used to the track, getting used to each other, because we don't see this new teammate of Carlos Jr. there. That's not normally. It's usually Tim Doyle and Young O. So they're probably getting used to the track, making some adjustments to the car, and there's plenty of laps. We're only on lap 45 of 200, so I believe that gap will close between pit strategies and other things going on the track, and at the end of the race, we'll see where we're at.
And we forgot to say this at the start of the race, but for those of you who are watching on GlacierTV.com, first of all, very hello to you. And also, secondly, you'll notice that there is some new layouts, some new information that you'll be seeing on your screen for this and the rest of the Afterburn IndyCar series. Some great work done by the guys at Glacier TV to bring you this information. So you will be able to know, for example, where these drivers are standing coming into the races in the championship battles. You'll also be able to see things like the speed that they're doing on the racetrack. The gaps between the drivers are going to be a lot more clear, and also last laps as well. Great comparison between drivers as we aim to improve your viewing experience for the Afterburn IndyCar series on Glacier TV. Out front, Randy Krasnos, your race leader. Nico Brandt in 2nd. Yves Wanner in 3rd. Ryan Norton in 4th. Young O in 5th.
Yeah, and that, like to say, draw attention a little bit to Randy Krasnos, who, like you said earlier, has struggled many times earlier in the season, has joined us in the booth many times, and, all kidding aside, Randy's doing an excellent job up front leading this race right now, defending his position, just running his race. Nico Brandt and Jonathan Goker, and, really been kind of battling back and forth, but Randy's just solid as a rock right now, just running his race.
Battle for the 10th position, Julian Pham and Pierre Bourdon battling for that 10th position. Bourdon having to look to the high side. Pham being able to run that low line. Lyle, as I say that, Bourdon just getting down towards the inside.
Careful.
They cut 5 drivers into the wall there. Caution, it's going to be out for the 3rd time here with 48 laps scored complete. And the curse of the commentator strikes again.
Yes, absolutely. That was amazing. And you saw it there. It actually was not. It was actually Julian Pham actually pinching down into that lower lane. I think maybe he lost track of where Pierre was.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Both of them into the wall.
We're going to see the replay of that in just a couple of moments' time. But as you see that, Pierre Bourdon on the inside line coming down into the corner. Pham got himself ultra tight coming in. And then he moved from the high side, from the low side, came into the track, into the corner even. He had to run the 2nd groove. And then it looked as though he just pinched down a little bit too much there. Caught Pierre Bourdon. Bourdon and Pham both into the wall. And behind him, I'm just checking, it looks as though everyone mercifully managed to get around okay there. So no other drivers involved. So both Bourdon and Pham looking to try and get themselves back down to pit lane to get themselves some repairs to their race car.
It looks like Pierre Bourneau took the brunt of that. He took the hardest smack into the wall. It looks like his car has the most damage. Julian Pham looks like he might be able to get some repairs. I'm not so sure about Pierre Bourneau. No, that
I
car
have to
was
say,
pretty toasty.
I'm going to have to say, though, we asked for it. Randy Cousineau, he played the strategy game, and it's worked for him, because he can now come down into pit lane with everyone else trying to get themselves some tyres and some race gas, staying out on the track. David Ward and Jonathan Goke both looking to get themselves the wave around here. And Randy Cousineau comes into his pit box, nicely into the box there. You see all the drivers streaming down. We'll keep an eye to see who comes in as, Young O lost it. He hit his rear wing a little bit there. That Young O drama in pit lane going to hurt him severely. East Warner is going to link the cars out of pit lane. And Young O, after doing all of that hard work, not only has got himself a bit of damage down the rear wing, he has now dropped back a ton of positions.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him because now he is no longer in contact with his teammate, Carlos Bolanos Jr., so he's going to have to get back around, get that car fixed, and get back out on the track. I mean, he's got plenty of time. We're only lap 51, but yes, he's going to have to do it all over again.
So your Indy 500 champion, Young O, making a very rare mistake. You very rarely see Young O making mistakes like that. Coming down into pit lane, came into his box, and then, just spinning it on entry. It looks as though that he just turned in a little bit too deep there as he's trying to get himself set down into his pit box. Slid through his box, turned right, and as he tried to immediately reverse it, just clipped the wall of that rear wing. Mercifully, it looks like he didn't get too much damage on that, but losing himself a lot of time in that peak number 10 machine.
And talk about, strategies and losing things in the pit road. Randy Krause's strategy right here actually kind of hurt him because what you have now is Yves Wanner and Ryan Norton, who pitted last time, needed less fuel, were able to exit the pits, both of them in front of him. So Randy Krause, by the time this sorts out, is going to be scored in P3. Now, he did a wonderful job leading those laps, but that did absolutely cost him on this pit stop.
You say cost him, but he managed to lead some laps. He managed to get some good rhythm into the books, and also he only lost 2 positions, and that was pretty much where he came into that first. That's where he was going to be coming into that first sequence of pit stops. So net gain, net loss, pretty much nothing at all for Cousineau. He tried it, didn't quite work out for him, but he still scored in the 3rd position, and he's got to be thankful for that at least.
Oh, absolutely, but we also don't know that if there's another caution within that he may try the same off-pit strategy again where he stays out and leads some more laps next time and hopes for another caution within his fuel window.
So at the line, at the line, we're going to have ourselves 52 laps scored complete. Just over 1/4 distance into the Chicagoland 300 here. Round 13 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series presented by Glacier TV. And for everyone who likes themselves a little bit of DPing and Mustangs, we have got ourselves the Grand Am Premier Series coming to you in a couple of hours time after this race. We'll get you the time for that a little bit later on. I believe that it's going to be at 9 p.m. GMT, but we'll confirm that. That is a great series there, the Grand Am Premier Series. It's 10 p.m. even GMT, so that will be some great racing as always here live from Glacier TV, bringing the entirety of the World Tour, as well as both the Grand Am Premier Series and the Skip Barber Racing School Premier Series. The Grand Am Premier Series will be coming to you from Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, and it looks to me like we've got Jonathan Goke and David Ward now have their lap back, or at least one of their laps back. Jonathan Goke being now scored on the lead lap, and David Ward is still scored 2 laps down. So with Jonathan Goke now back of the pack, ready to see if he can make his way back up the field, as we saw Young O and his driving partner.
So very quickly before we go green, Doyle, I'm going to have to ask you, do you prefer Mustanging or DPing?
Well, I actually prefer the Mustang much better, but the DP is probably a better car to drive in some cases. For me, anyway.
Yves Wanner, he'll bring the field back to green flag racing here. You see the pace car has pulled in. Green flag in the air Here's Warner being charged down by Ryan Norton. We've seen Norton and Warner having some great battles at the start of this race. Randy Krosno sat third in line, Nico Brandt in fourth, and Carlos Bonos Jr. running in the fifth position. Pretty much spread out there for the most part as they come down the back straightaway into turn number 3. Have a look at Young O around the outside there. Hold on! Oh, Yana Matikayan coming down into turn number 3, and Young O having to up the outside line. Also close there between those two drivers as they came out of turn number 4. Young O completing the pass there, and some great driving by himself and Yana Matikayan in the number 34 Glacier Racing Machine.
Yeah, and I think Jarno had no choice but to lift right there to keep from moving up the track, which gave Young O the opportunity to go ahead and make the pass on the outside right there. And since his little mishap in the pit, I don't think you're going to see him waiting for anybody. Now we got drivers actually moving out of the way so we can get through there. I kind of hate when they do that, but he's definitely going to be a man on a mission to get back up there to his teammate.
So Young O now with him up into the 9th position, overtaking John Ailes. His next victim is going to be Dave Jinks, the number 76 machine, a little bit further through the field. Having a look at Ryan Norton and Yves Warner in the battle for the first position. Ryan Norton, it looks like he's again and again try that outside line in the number 84 machine, getting a good run into turn number 1. But this is where the inside line really is prevalent from the centre of the corner, because it's the shortest way around the racetrack. You don't lose much speed down there. And you see Norton there having to use the outside line if he's going to try and set up a path, but it's so difficult. And we're waiting to see whether Randy Krosno could come into play in about between these two drivers.
I wonder if Ryan Norton isn't just trying to save some tires by just kind of taking the outside line there and instead of trying to hug down underneath, because I think he knows right now he's not going to get around the outside on Yves Warner unless there's some kind of a mistake without help from the back, and Randy Krosno is just too far back to give him a hand.
So as they come down past the start-finish line again, we're working on board with Young O in the number 10 machine, going down the inside of Dave Jinks into turn number 1. I think Jinks just hadn't got the momentum coming into the corner. Let Young go through there, and you see ahead of him is caution's out.
Caution's out.
That is a spinning race car of, don't see who that was from the back of my screen. We'll get confirmation. That is Nico Brandt. Nico Brandt's bad luck in the Afterburn IndyCar Series continues here. And I'm just trying to figure out what happened to him. It looked as though he had a car on the inside. That was Carlos Bonas Jr. in the Carlos Bonas Jr. in the number 82 machine. Nico Brandt started in the second lane, just drifted up the racetrack into the grey. And we've talked so many times, though, of just how little grip there is on that outside line. You see the replay there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no contact. He just drifted a little too high there and got into the gray and just lost traction.
And it looked as though he only got himself a couple of feet to the right of that racing line, trying to give Bonas Jr. a little bit of room coming down into turn number 1. And in fact, yeah, he just brushed up the race. And I'll tell you why. Because Randy Krosno was running that second lane ahead of them. And I think that's what took the air away from the rear of Nico Brandt's car. Wasn't able to react quickly enough to making some changes in its race car to the weight jacket, all the anti-roll bars. And Nico Brandt's day is done, and his horrible form continues in this year's Afterburn IndyCar Series. After dominating the roadside last year, he wanted to go for the overall championship, and this really, really is putting a downer on that.
Yeah, and you really have to feel for Nico Brandt, because he's such a good competitor and such, he's always a strong showing. And right here, like you were talking about, he just managed to get up the track, couldn't bring it down, brushed the wall, and that was enough to send his suspension and send him, spinning down the race, to completely losing control of his car. And, there is a possibility that he might be able to get that fixed, and his pit crew might be able to get him back out on the track, but he's going to be laps down, there's no doubt about it.
So, out front, he's one of your race leader, Ryan Norton in second, Randy Krosno in third, Carlos Bonas Jr. in fourth. I tell you who this does help. It helps Jonathan Goke, and it also helps David Ward, who has scored laps down. If you're just having a look at Dave Jinks, currently riding in the 8th position in the number 76 machine, we talked about how consistency has to be the key thing for drivers in this series. For Dave Jinks, he's summing it up perfectly. No wins or no top fives, but sitting in 4th position overall, and solid race finishes week in, week out.
Well, did Ryan Norton pit right here? Is that why we're not seeing him right behind Eves? What happened to Ryan?
Ryan Norton came down pit lane to get himself topped up in fuel by the look of it. Yeah, just topping himself up with fuel, and it's going to be only a gallon or so he put into that car, getting himself some fresh tyres as well. But Norton now is playing the strategy game, seeing if he can get his way through the field, because in fact he's doing it again. As Julian Pham comes down as well, he's just topping up on race gas. I think that he knows he's in a window that if it was to go green to the end from here, he would be able to make just 2 more stops.
Yeah, and that's what you see about, we're on lap 62, and now we're starting to see, maybe some fuel strategies, make a play for the race. And also, too, this caution, one of the things that's also helping, if you'll look, you've got Young O back up in the 6th position, and Carlos Bolanos Jr., his teammate, is in the 3rd position, so he's just 2 cars away from teaming up with his teammate and making a run at Randy Krasnos and Yves Warner.
And I tell you what would be useful to see as well is just how Young Yo is going to be able to handle amongst that traffic of Krasno Jr., Danny Ench and Yves Warner. And I have to say as well, there's been some solid driving going on. We are working our 3rd caution of the day here. It was 62 laps scored complete. That last caution, a single car incident, and sorry, our 4th caution of the day? Yeah, it is our 4th caution of the day. For the other incidents, though, they have been just literally drivers getting a little bit too close to call, and there's literally been about 6 inches in it for all of those incidents so far that they could have just ended up not being an incident.
Yeah, and we have another driver pit, so now Young O and Carlos Bolanos are just separated by 1 car of the number 98 car of Robert Carlson. So I think they both know in order to get around this racetrack, if they're going to try anything on the high side, they're going to have to do it together. And we've seen Randy Krasnos running a strong race, so he's not going to flinch here. He's going to run his line. And so they're going to have to work to get around him if they want any shot at all at Yves Warner up front for that number 1 position.
But there's a difference between defending if the car's behind you and defending if the car is on the outside lane, because you have to be oh so careful not to brush up the racetrack when you have a car on your outside, and that is where drivers like Ronis Jr., in fact even Randy Krasno and Yves Warner are going to try and use that to his advantage, taking the momentum away from the car down on the inside and in front. You see the pace car making that turn down towards pit lane once again at the line. 63 laps are going to be scored complete here in the Chicagoland 300 on Glacier TV. Pace car makes a turn down pit road. Yves Warner accelerates, and we are back to green flag racing. Having a look at Bolanos Jr. there, he was napping a little bit on the start. Randy Krasno managed to get himself a 5-car length gap. As you see there, Young O immediately working the high line on Russell Carlson, trying to get himself up into the 4th position. Is he going to be able to make the move, stick on the back straightaway? It's going to be so close, and I think he almost got it there, but now he's going to have to wait, and all of this time, Bolanos Jr. is going to be getting further and further ahead of him. Young O, on that first lap, tried to make the move there, and he was inches away from being able to clear Robert Carlson in the number 98 machine. But now as they come down through turn 2 again, he's got that gap. It's a lot smaller this time. So now Young O is stuck on that outside line, trying to work his way around Carlson. And I've got a feeling that he's just going to try and tuck back in now, as we are going to have 65 laps scored complete. Young O tried his best, but just couldn't get around the outside of Carlson.
Now, Robert Carlson doing an excellent job of keeping his car down on that line, keeping it down there, not washing up and causing some kind of an incident there. But yeah, great defensive maneuvers by Robert Carlson there to keep Young O behind him. Oh, another caution.
And also a spinner once again by the look of it. And it was in the middle of the field. It looks as though it was Goke. Don't know what happened to him there, as he came off of turn number 2. Yep, coming off of turn number 2, you had the number 5 machine. Coming off of turn number 2, it just looked as though, he'd gone up on his weight jacket too much. You saw him slide once there, and then he just spun the car around. You're seeing on the replay now, he was working on the outside of Ellis Stevens. Ellis Stevens in the 5 machine, and then it did look as though he just went up a little bit too much on either the rear anti-roll bar or the weight jacker, and as he caught the seam on exit, the car wanted to spear left him. No damage to that race car, but my God, is Goking the walls today.
Absolutely, that was. I'm sure that's not anything he wanted to feel, because he got up a little high on the wall there, a little high, didn't get into the wall, but he apparently had his car set up for being a little lower on the track, and the back end just kind of washed out on him, and that was it. He lost control.
And in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to go and say hello to Goat. What the hell happened there? Did you just get a little bit too high on your rear ARB or your weight checker?
Well, seeing as the weight checker was at plus 20 and I made some wing adjustments, that might have been the reason why I got loose. At least I didn't hit nothing.
And you've come back from 1 lap down to get yourself back on the lead lap. First of all, yourself and David Ward having a little bit too much close calls for comfort there.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about him. It's just this car gets so tight when you're underneath somebody. It's not much fun.
But I'm sure you two have just forgiven each other for now, going to the pub later on. But for the rest of your race, you're going to reverse those wing changes, make a couple of tire pressure changes, try and get yourself back in?
No, I'm going to keep the wing setting. I'm just not going to go as high on the wedge jacker.
Well, good luck to you in that 08 machine. We know you've been pushing, get yourself back onto the lead lap, and we hope that you have a good rest of the race.
Oh, thanks, Will. See you guys.
So there we are.
Well, there
now we
go.
know.
There you go. At least he's taking it with a grain of salt and good spirits and good sportsmanship. So that's always good to see.
And we'll try and get a couple of other people during the rest of this race to come down and say hello to us. I have to say, though, Robert Carlson even doing a great job in that 4th position. And that is what you talk about, pressure management with Young O there. As you see, I believe that is David Ward coming down into pit lane. David has currently scored 2 laps down, and these short repetitive cautions just not helping him at all, as it means that he's not have any opportunity to try and get his lap back, as bits of the field are coming down to pit lane to top off. But
you got
not
Young
the
O
leaders.
and Carlos Bolanos Jr. also pitted right there. Probably trying to get close to each other all over again. So that's interesting that they're going to move back in the back to try to get back up again.
But again, it's fresh tyres. I think they're going to come in key here. Young O, I think he had to use a lot of those tyres as he was working the outside line of Robert Carlson. And what is significant, however, in that sequence of pit stops, O gets out ahead of Carlson. So after making that mistake a couple of pit stops ago, Young O recovers to gain a position down on pit lane. That moves him up into the 9th position. So to run through your race order, Ease Warner is your race leader, working under caution with Randy Crosno in 2nd. Ryan Norton is currently sat in the 3rd position, with Ellis Stevens doing a great drive in 4th at the moment, with Jorge Ponte in 5th, down the engine 6th, Dave Jinks in 7th, Carlos Juanes Jr. in 8th, Young O in 9, Russell Carlson running out your top 10, John Ailes 11th, Jonah Mattakane in 12th, Alan Wilson 13th, Jonathan Goke, the last car in the lead lap in 14th, then David Ward 2 laps down, Julian Pham 4 laps down, your retirees, Nico Brandt, Pierre Bordeaux, Joseph Pascal, and Philippe Lambert.
And if you'll look here at the order that we currently have out here, the strategy that we were talking about last caution, Ryan Norton actually pitted twice coming around, so he's able to stay out on the track, and lo and behold, he's back in P3. So you have Yves Wanner, Randy Crosno, and Ryan Norton, which is kind of a familiar to what we saw earlier in the race. So it looks like Ryan Norton's strategy to get himself back up here and possibly save some fuel has paid off, at least for lap 69.
And we're going to do another one of those really quick interviews. Randy Crosno, early on in this race, you got yourself off strategy. We don't know whether or not you just was napping coming into pit lane or whether you were actually intending to go off strategy. It's worked for you. Currently riding the 2nd position as we are pretty much a third of the way into this race now. Are you going to plan this whole off strategy thing again later on, or is it case now just settling down into a rhythm?
Now, the reason I didn't pit earlier, my car runs better in clean air, and I wanted to get some laps in clean air, not behind anybody, and it's more relaxing. So that's what I was doing. So we'll see how it plays out, though.
10-4 in second position. Hope you do well. Trying to work around the 88 machine of Yves Warner.
And Randy, let me
Thank
ask you a question. Hey, Randy, how disappointed are you that you're not in the booth with us right now?
I'm not disappointed at all.
And the
Good job,
pace
Randy.
car is going to make that turn down towards pit lane again. Yves Warner once again bring the field back to green flag racing. Randy Coslow in second, Ryan Norton in third, Eddie Stevenson fourth, Giorgio Ponte in fifth. Green flag.
Looks like another great start by Yves Warner and Randy Crosland's. There's quite a bit of gap there. It looks like Ryan Norton's a little bit behind there too. So we'll see if Ryan Norton sucks up to Randy Crosland, so whether he tries to make a pass or whether they just run some laps.
And we talk about great starts. Young O takes the sixth position away from Dave Jinks there on that restart. A great restart there by Young O, working that outside line around Dave Jinks. Ahead of him, Pierre Porter, who's currently scored 12 laps down. So he is still in the race. Move Young O up into the sixth position. Border is going to go down a lap to Young O momentarily as they come down the back straight away. Giorgio Ponte is just about a second ahead of Young O. But what I have to say is that draft from Pierre Border is going to allow Young O to close up to Giorgio Ponte. So the fact there was a lap car on the way, in fact, probably had a bit of a benefit to Young O, who is working down in that sixth position. The gap between himself and Giorgio Ponte is now 7/10 of a second, as Ponte is also closing up to the rear of Ellis Stevens in the number 5 machine, driving for Club England. So I've always got to love Club England drivers, so I'm going to brag on about that. But Ellis Stevens doing a great job there in the 5 machine, currently sat in the 4th position, but the top 3 drivers checked out already to a gap of 1.9 seconds from 4th. And Doyle's gone to sleep. Awesome! In the meanwhile.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. I was just kind of watching what was transpiring here. I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going on here between the relationship with Young O and Carlos Bolanos Jr. I'm not seeing the type of teamwork that we're used to seeing when we're running Young O and Tim Doyle here. So it's kind of an interesting strategy. Maybe it's just because he's new, or I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm trying to come up with a conspiracy.
But let's not forget, as they go down to the inside there, on Giorgio Ponte. Giorgio Ponte in the 00 San Esprilla machine there. Young O getting himself up into the 5th position. I have to say, let's not forget, Tim Don and Young O caution. And as I always start saying one of these big long sentences, Yoni's going to start getting his shotgun out in a minute. And it was Carlson and Jonathan Goke there involved in that incident. And again, it was Jonathan Goke getting himself loose and hitting Carlson as they come off the corner. Those changes did not work there for Goke, and that is disappointing for him, as he has now scored pretty much is out of the race. And that is really going to hurt the 08 machine as he got himself back onto the lead lap. I think he was just trying to drive a car that would be a little bit looser in traffic, but I think that he just had the air taken away from him. Instead of the car getting tight, I think he just got snapped loose there.
Yeah, and I think he's probably regretting the fact that, you asked him if he wanted to put those changes back. I think he's probably regretting that decision right now, because it definitely looks like his car was lacking a lot of aero, or he was really into the weight jacker, because that thing, he's the only car I've seen so far today snap loose like that on the low line, and he just snapped loose and shot right up the track.
And to clarify, I think it was more the case that it was on the seams more than anything. This is a phenomenon that we see more at tracks like Kentucky or Michigan. So it really is a case that I think John had taken a different setup approach. His cars are coming down pit lane for fuel and tyres. One driver stays out. I think that's Ryan Norton there who stays out. So Ryan Norton is going to assume the race lead. Ellis Stevens stays out also. So move Ryan Norton up into your race leader in the number 84 machine.
Well, again, I think that's that last pit strategy. He was hoping there was going to be a caution in his window. So, Ryan Norton's got probably 2 to 3 more laps in the tank than everybody else does. So he's going to probably just take his turn and run some laps, log some laps out there in the lead, and see how that transitions as far as towards the end of the race for fuel strategy.
So yeah, going back to GOAT just very quickly, it seemed to be that he'd taken a very different setup approach, making his car run looser on the racetrack. But as is the case so often when you do that, if you get yourself onto the seams, you can use those seams to turn the car if it's a little bit tight. But if the car's loose, then what it does, it creates that oversteery sensation. And he saw that he did try to catch it that first time, but then as he tried to catch it, it just speared to the right. Had Carlson not been on the outside, he would have been able to save it. But, you know, it's always that case of if you've got a car in the wrong place at the wrong time, drama always happens. As you're having a look at Ryan Norton and the 84 machine, our third leader of the day. And we've had a question in on Twitter. You can use the hashtag Afterburn for if you would like to use communicate with us on Twitter this afternoon. The hashtag is Afterburn on Twitter. And the question is, how does the weight jacker work? And Dor, you and I both know that it's one of those phenomenons that always takes a lot of time to get used to. Do you want to talk about it, or shall I?
Well, basically, I think if you're asking about the weight jacker, I think it's kind of similar to having a soda bottle that's half full of soda and moving it from one side to the other. What it basically does is the weight jacker takes the weight and moves it from the front of the car to the back of the car, and that has an effect obviously on the suspension. So if somebody wants to kind of get that idea, it's kind of how, you know, everything goes to the front or everything goes to the back, or depending on how you have it leveled, you have more weight in the front or the back, and that's kind of what we have with the weight jacker. And what that does is it affects your ability to turn and where the weight is on the car, whether it's on the back or on the front.
And for the technical side of it, the weight jacker, I believe, equates to 4 clicks on the right rear ride height of the car. And obviously what that ride height part does is the more air that you have going underneath the car decreases the kind of suction airflow, which also makes the car a little bit looser. And it's a very useful question, as it's one of the most important tools in the race car that you can use. Alongside that, you have the anti-roll bars, both front and rear. And you know what, Dor? I think we should do ourselves a little Indycar 101 feature starting next week.
We could possibly do that, a segment that educates everybody a little bit on the IndyCar, one piece at a time, because there are so many pieces and parts to this car that have a dramatic effect on the way the car handles and the way the car races on the track. And a lot of them are in the cockpit, and some of them are actually in the pits. So, yeah, I think you're right. That might be helpful.
And also, let's take the time, as we've got the one to go, very quickly, say thank you to everyone who attended the first ever Team Afterburn AOX open house on Memorial Day Monday, just been. The pit stop challenge, to run through the results of that, Oscar Hardwick won the pit stop challenge with an average time of 43.357. That was going out onto the track, doing a lap, coming into pit lane, coming out of pit lane, and getting back to the start-finish line. A guy called Will Vincent came in second, Dave Jinks in third, Sean Stroud in fourth, Brad Thumford running out your top 5. 14 drivers took part in the pit stop challenge. I know a lot of people are also taking part in the sprint races, the heat race we had afterwards, and the setup session was immensely busy. So thank you very much to everyone who came down to the open house session. We will be doing many more of those over the coming months. I believe our next one is actually going to be at Indy, which will be fun. Ryan Norton, the guy who led the setup session, is leading the field back to green flag racing. You see there, pace car is in, and Ryan Norton waiting. Now we're back to green flag racing, and there we go. And you see there, Ryan Norton on the inside line. He's got himself a good jump there. David Ward, I believe he's just trying to move out of the way of Young O, but Young O is like, I cannot overtake on the inside. Oh, close there as they came through turn number 1. Little room there between those two drivers. And Young O, I think there's a bit of miscommunication of the rules there to David Ward. He was saying to Young, overtake me on the inside, but of course Young could not do that until they'd gone past the start-finish line, and Young, obviously on a charge, as he's now working down on Yana Metakane, coming through turn number 1 and 2. A bit of a bump draft there going down the corner, but these two drivers running very close proximity, and there you see Youngo moving to the high side. Is he going to try to cross over? Yes, he is! And Yano not quite sighted to that. And there you see, he gets the job done there. Yano just running that outside line. Young O is on a charge as we have 82 laps or 200 scored complete. And for some of these drivers, it's get yourself into position now to make your life easy in the last 50 laps.
Yeah, and this is what we're expecting from Young O. I'm a little surprised that he's not getting more help from his teammate like we normally see, but I guess that's water under the bridge right now. And what you see is that Ellis Stevens and John Ailes, names that we haven't really talked about yet in the race today, getting an opportunity to run for position 2 and 3 behind Ryan Norton. So, and then there's a pretty good-sized gap between Ellis Stevens and now what's in your third position is Young O. So.
And I tell you what, big credit to Ellis Stevens in the number 5 machine, hanging on to the rear of Ryan Norton there. The gap between those two drivers as they come across the line to put 84 laps in the books is 0.2 of a second, and we have not heard or seen anything from Ellis Stevens so far in the Afterburn IndyCar series, but that Club England driver really being able to hang on to the rear of Ryan Norton, and this is going to be great for him as he makes his entrance into the Afterburn IndyCar series.
Yeah, and then you've got Pierre Bourdon, who is actually scored 12 laps down, who is also kind of hanging in there. He looks like he's in P3, but he's actually 12 laps down, so he's just kind of a rolling chicane for Young O. So we'll see how that goes when he gets up and tries to make his pass on that driver there. He's holding his own right up in there with Ellis Stevenson.
And for Pierre Bourdon, he is 12 laps down. He's pretty much realistically, even if there were another 5 cautions, he'd only really be able to get up to 7 laps down. As so close to the wall there for Pierre Bourdon. As they came down into turn number 1, you could not put a piece of paper between that right front tyre and the wall as they came down into number 1, Pierre Bourdon. But turning laps, it's all fine here for these drivers, so long as they maintain that 105%. Race speed, and had Bourdon not been involved in that incident with Julien Pham earlier on, it looks as though he really does have the pace. He would have had the pace to contend for perhaps a top 5 finish.
Yeah, that's something that you didn't expect from somebody that's 12 laps down, but yeah, he's right in the draft of Ellis Stevenson, and in the gap that they maintain between Young O is still 1.9 seconds, and Young O's not really getting the benefit from a push like you would expect, but they're definitely racing up front.
And I tell you what, they're racing through the middle of the pack as well, and I believe that was Stanley Yench who got himself into the wall a little bit there, coming through turn number 1 about a lap or so ago. He's lost himself a position to ease Warner coming through the field, and further ahead of him, a great battle going on with Randy Cosno and David Ward. David Ward has kind of scored 2 laps down, trying to make his way through the field. At the same time, Randy Cosno wanted to get his way through the field. But drivers are really getting racy here. As you see there, 2 wide almost. Down the back straightaway, Jana Matikayan and John Ailes getting at it. But Young O has got himself that clean air, but he's 2 seconds behind Ellis Stevens and Ryan Norton out front.
And that's actually something that I wouldn't have expected. He's actually losing ground to our leaders, which is not what you expect from Young O. But I think he's just going to kind of wait here and try to take advantage of the next caution or the next round of pit stops, because definitely close the gap on the restart on this one. And that's, of course, we know that's where he excels.
But the interesting thing is for Young O, he's running the bottom lane of the racetrack all the way around. Yes, it's the shortest way around the track, but it means that you have to turn in so much earlier into the corner, and it will really hurt his tyres. You see that Ellis Stevens, I think he's considering just letting Pierre Bourdon go past him. It's not for position, but Ellis Stevens looks like with that mirror full of Pierre Bourdon in that number 92 machine, as he does indeed make the path. I think Stevens is just like, come on, I'm sat in second at the moment. I just want to complete this race. And I think that he was getting a little bit nervous with Bourdon behind him, and just let him pass there. And that's going to help Young O close that gap by a couple of tenths of a second, as both Bourdon and Ellis Stevens have dropped back to about half a second behind Ryan Norton. They're going to have to really push to try and get back into that draft.
Yeah, and I think you're right. He's actually, you know what, I don't want this guy racing me. I don't want him getting underneath me. You know, just go ahead and go around me because you have no effect on my position at this point in time. So, and kind of looking at, you know, like you're saying, running the bottom of the racetrack, that is quite a surprise because it's definitely not the fastest way around the track, unless, once again, he is trying to wait for his partner, Carlos Bolano Jr., to catch up to him so they can drive together, which they have been unsuccessful doing so far during this race.
Yeah, so Ellis Stevens now a second behind Ryan Norton, and that is about that point where, you know, he will start losing the draft. He's got Pierre Boydell ahead of him by about 2 tenths of a second, but it really looks as though Ryan Norton is going to be able to start pulling away in the race lead, and it does show the effect of the draft on these drivers. As it came across the line, it's up to 1.1 second now, that gap between first and second position. And Ryan Norton, I think, is just a great pusher, a great puller, so he can very easily pull these cars around the racetrack. And you saw that as soon as Ellis Stevens lost that position on the racetrack to Pierre Bourdon in line, he's just started falling backwards. And this is going to allow Young O to close up to the rear of Ellis Stevens in that number 5 machine. The gap between those two drivers is now down to 1.2 seconds. Young O in the number 10 machine is charging hard, and for Ellis Stevens that perhaps was a bit of a strategic mistake, because not only has he been able to lose a draft to Ryan Norton and be pulled around the racetrack with him, he's falling back into the clutches of this pack. Young O in third, all the way back to Dave Jinks, in fact all the way further back when you look at it, because third all the way through to 9 to separated by less than 2 seconds on the racetrack.
Yeah, and once again, I think we're seeing it there because I'm watching Carlos Bolanos Jr. make his way up through the pack. He's just now has one car separate, John Ailes separating him and Young O running the bottom of this racetrack, knowing that it's not the fastest. I have to say that it looks like they're trying to get hooked up here because they know that's the only way they're going to close that gap is if they have at least a 2-car draft.
And let's not forget as well, Ryan Norton is all by himself up front now. So what that will mean is, even though at the moment he's gained some advantage, once that Ailes Jr., Matakayan, Crosno, Jinks, Warner, Ponte train all come up, they are going to be going with such a head of steam. And just to give you a bit of an example, last time by, Ryan Norton's lap was a 25.594, Young O a 25.464. As you see there, 2 wide coming down turn number 2. Ellis Stevens getting himself back ahead of Pierre Bourdon. Bourdon now is going to have to run the outside line with Young O coming down the inside, and as you see at the same time, going down to the inside of Ellis Stevens to take second position. Stevens, he's got to be very careful that he doesn't get shuffled all the way back through this pack, but luckily just being able to get back in line, move Young O up into the second position, and the charge is now on.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Ryan Norton is all alone out there, so he has no drafting partners. He's going to have to run what you brung. He has no help at all, and now you've got Young O and Ellis Stevenson working together, and Carlos Bolanos Jr. right behind him. So you've got a 4-car draft right now, working up to try to catch up to Ryan Norton. So he's definitely got to be aware of that right now.
And we'll wait to get the next lap data just to give some form of clarity, because Young O is obviously completing the pass at the end of that last lap previous to this one. So Young O, currently sat in the second position, is charging down now Ryan Norton. Ryan Norton, as he comes across the line, he's got lap track ahead of him. This could come to his advantage, as Norton last time by a 25.583, Young O a 25.646. Young O at the moment is running slower still, so Norton being able to increase that gap out front. And I had to say, Norton's times have been very, very consistent these last 10 laps or so, all in the 5s, all less than half a tenth of a second separating those laps.
Yeah, and this may be a case where, as we saw at the beginning, that even though Young O started in the pits, it may be that he had a better qualifying setup, and it looks like Ryan Norton's race setup is definitely vicious and set up and ready to go. I mean, he's running some great laps out there by himself.
So, you see that train is forming. You see Carlos Bolanos Jr. getting himself around Pierre Bourdon, currently sat 4th in this line now. And then you see on the outside there, Riley Crosno on Jarno Matakayan. Watch out, guys. as Randy Kusno is working that second lane. Matikayan on the inside, and it's so hard to make the move happen on the outside, but you see Kusno really getting close coming into turn number 3, and he's running that line to perfection there, right in the second groove, as they come out of turn number 3 and 4. Matikayan being punched down to the inside line, with Krosno technically getting the position on that last lap. They come back down into 1 and 2. You've really got to have patience when you go too wide here at Chicagoland. I've been in this position so many times before, and you cannot expect to just gain a position on a lap. You have to work on the driver on the inside of you over about 5 or 6 laps if you're going to make the move happen. And you see there, David Ward, he could come into a play as well, with Dave Jinks right behind as well. East Warner, this is going to be interesting. These two drivers going too wide ahead of them. Which way these drivers decide to go and help out. Going to want to help. Oh, Dave Jinks there, just brushing the wall. It looks like he just just got white-walled there. He should be able to carry on, but he loses position to Ease Warner and Dave Jinks there in that draft. The second driver we've seen get all the way up into the wall on this green flag run, but thankfully being able to continue as he's got that great battle for position. This is the battle for 5th and 6th. Jana Matikayan riding in 5th position. Randy Krosno looking now down to the inside as ahead of them. They've got some great action as well. Young O is in 3rd position. Sorry, in 2nd position. Ellie Stevens is in 3rd, but Carlos Bonas Jr. looking to try and get around the inside of Ellie Stevens.
And looking back in the pay, Randy Krosno was not able to make that pass stick, but he's still working on it, still working around, getting around, hoping he's going to get a little bit of a draft help from David Ward. He continues to pull out on the straights, and he's definitely got a little bit more straight line speed, but he just...
Oh, up into the grey a bit there, though.
Yeah, he's trying to get around, trying to work it, and like you said, it's overlapped, so you just make maybe a car length or... Ooh, that was close. You know, just a tire length at a time until you can finally get by. So right now, coming out of that turn, he should have a little momentum. See if he can get a little bit before the turn. No, it's going to be a battle. It's going to take a while. Good job holding this line. Oh, there we go. There we go.
That's some good momentum coming off corner down the front straightaway, and Krosno getting so close there to being able to clear him. But then on the second half of those straightaways, you see that Matikayan gets a draft from the cars behind, which just pushes him back ahead. Some great two-wide racing between these two drivers. They've been at it now for about 6 or 7 laps. Krosno working the outside line and Matikayan on the inside, and Matikayan holding that inside line to perfection there in the Glacier Racing number 34 machine there. And you see that technically yet again Krosno led that lap out of those two drivers in about for 5th by 3/1000ths of a second. Doyle, this is Chicagoland racing at its very best.
Absolutely, and then you see he's coming out. Randy Krosno's had a little more momentum coming out of that turn right there, so he's going to be a little bit ahead. So that's all he has to do, just kind of inch it forward a little at a time and try to get a little more coming out of the straights and be a little more ahead each time as they go into the corners. You see him again. He's pulling ahead. Really is going to come down to the backstretch, how much momentum he can get.
Yeah, and it does look as though he is so much better through turns 3 and 4, Randy Krosno, than he is in turns 1 and 2, and that's where you can complete the pass. There on the drivers, it's better to do it on the back straightaway, as on the front stretch, you've still got to make that left-hand turn, and you can't afford to pinch the drivers down as much as you would want to unless it is the final lap. And this is one of the best battles we have on the racetrack at the moment. However, a little bit further forward, Carlos Bonas Jr. is currently riding in the 4th position, with Ellis Stevens in 3rd, Young O in 2nd. Ryan Norton, however, the gap between himself and Young O, 4.3 seconds.
Yeah, at this point in time, it looks like, unless something changes, of course, we're in 114 laps, but Ryan Norton, his car seems unstoppable right now compared to any of the other cars we've seen out on the track. He is just running a wonderful race, and his car is definitely dialed in and turning some laps here.
So you see Randy Krosno getting a little bit of help now on that outside line from David Ward, who gets up into the grey. David Ward there in the number 69 pink machine, trying to help out Randy Krosno on that outside line a little bit. Those two are very good friends, and working the inside lane is Jana Matikayan, absolutely no help at all, but Matikayan being not only able to hold his own, but clear Randy Krosno once again on that inside line, and this is where frustration so often kicks in at a track like this. You know that you're possibly a little bit faster, but if you can't run that outside line, it really, really does make things difficult, as the inside line has so much grip down, especially into the corners, which is where you really do need the grip on this racetrack.
Yeah, and you really have to hand it to Jarno Medican, because he has run once again a great line, really not doing anything, keeping his car down, knowing that Randy was on the outside of him, that if he pushed up, the race could be over for both drivers. So he's running a really strong race and really strong line right now to fend off Randy Krosnos for what it was. It looked like 5 or 6 laps. So hats off to Jarno for keeping it clean and doing a wonderful job of holding his position.
As you saw there from the onboard, Randy Krosno back to the outside line, but he can get himself once again onto the grey. I think that's the issue as well for Randy. It looks as though his car, once it's in that second lane, just wants to brush up a tiny bit into the third, and that is where you have absolutely no grip. He does it yet again into the third lane. You really do lose grip on that third and fourth lane. You do not want to be up there unless, it's a do or die manoeuvre. And Krosno, he keeps on getting his right-hand tyres onto that seam, and I think that's what's hampering his progress just a little bit.
Well, I think right now what you saw is he probably drove the tires off of his car a little bit for those 5 laps he was there. If you look, his car is just pushing out to the outside a little bit more than it was previously, so I think his tires have got a little hot right now, so it might be better for Randy just to kind of pull behind him and let his tires cool off and give it another shot, because he's definitely pushing up the track more than he was before.
And out front, Ryan Norton is still a race leader. Let's not forget, on that last caution, Ryan Norton has stayed out recently to get track position. The gap between himself and Young O is now up to 4.6 seconds. So Ryan Norton is working beautifully in that number 84 Make-A-Wish car. And I think that for Norton, it's a case of, even though he knows he has less fuel, unless he gets very unlucky with the caution situation, he pretty much isn't now in the catbird seat, as that gap between those two drivers is pretty much what he needs to almost make his pit ins from having to nail it perfectly to giving himself a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, and I think that's where his strategy plays out. I mean, I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's hoping to give me a caution somewhere. Give me a caution. Now, him being as far ahead as he is, that may play against him too, because the other drivers will be taking less fuel during that pit stop than Ryan Norton will. But looking what we have in position 2, 3, and 4, Young O, Ellis Stevenson, and Carlos Morales Jr., they look like they are just riding and logging laps at this particular time. I mean, that's pretty intimidating, a 4.7 second lead out there. So there's no chance, unless something happens to Ryan Norton, that they're going to catch him unless he runs out of fuel.
And with Ryan Norton as well in that catbird seat at the moment, let's not forget, in this first pit stop, they will all be taking the 22 gallons of fuel. I think, I'm just doing maths in my head, Ryan Norton last pitted on lap 80. So he needs 120 laps worth of fuel to the end. So it'll be that last stop where drivers start taking a little bit less. And it's only going to be 3 or 4 gallons here or there. What that's going to mean, however, is Ryan Norton is going to be having to use more fuel kind of along that last bit of the race, and if there's a caution then, that could be the chance that O needs to possibly try to jump Norton on pit stops. But as it plays out at the moment, Ryan Norton currently working lap 126 of 200 here at the Chicagoland 300 on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Doyle Johnson in the booth. Doyle, this race started off as a couple of these over races has done this season, with drivers, wanting to fight for those positions early, but it's settled down now. And even though we've still got that great battle between Jarno Medican and Randy Krosno, drivers just, as you said, logging laps to get themselves to that last pit window.
Yeah, I think you like you say, we still have this battle. Randy Krosnos will not give up the fight on the outside line against Jarno Medican, and so that's always something good to watch and hear. But you are seeing a lot of that. I think the cars, everybody's sorted out who's faster than who has what cars, and then the different pit strategies that we're on. So I think at this point in time, everybody's hoping for something dramatic to happen on the racetrack, and hey, I just want to finish this race and let's log some laps, and hopefully we'll get some good luck somewhere along the line.
And a couple of drivers are down into pit lane. Alan Wilson is in pit lane. Pierre Bourdais is down into pit lane. So these drivers are making green flag pit stops. As you see there, Matikayan still holding off the charge from Randy Crosno as Alan Wilson's coming back onto the racetrack. And I believe that is Pierre Bourdais coming out of pit lane as well. And Pierre Bourdais, in fact, in the number 92 machine, is going to have to serve himself a black flag for leaving the racetrack too early.
Oh, and that's unfortunate. That was one of the rules that was stated at the beginning of the race, is that you must enter and exit the pits on the back straight. So coming out of there too early or was going to, result in a black flag. So he's going to have to come around and serve that penalty.
I take that back. He left the racetrack too late, not too early, because otherwise he wouldn't have got the... You know what I mean. Where Pierre Bourdais is going to have to come down and make himself a black flag pit stop there. And even though he's 14 laps down, that is really going to hurt Pierre Bourdais.
Yeah, and while you're talking, there has been a development and a surprise on the racetrack. Ryan Norton is now 5.1 seconds in the lead.
Ellis Stevens coming down the pit lane, almost getting onto the grass there. And we are having to keep a very close eye on these drivers in this race. And Ellis Stevens, you see, also close there to ruining his race. He's having a great drive in that number 5 machine. And Doyle, take us through his pit stop.
Well, since I'm not looking at his pit stop, I'm not going to be able to do that, Will. Sorry. And I'm looking at this battle that we still have going on between Jarno Matikayan and Randy Crosno. It's unbelievable how many laps these two have run side by side, and hopefully neither one of these drivers is going to make a mistake anytime soon, because it sure would be disappointing to see either one of these drivers end their day based off of the battle that we're seeing here, lap after lap. So hats off to both drivers.
And Randy Crosno, you see from him that, I tell you what, I told at the start of this broadcast that outside lane really requires a lot of momentum. And it looks as though Randy Crosno, his car's just a little bit tight at the moment. He can perhaps make some mistakes make some changes on his next pit stop to help him on that outside lane. But it's very, very difficult for Randy Crosno to complete that pass. And it just seems to be that he's getting a little bit tight in the middle and exit of the corner on that outside line.
Well, and as you see there, you've got Yves Wanner kind of running the outside line. It looks like he's attempting to try to get Randy a little bit of a push, because he seems to be running a parallel line, but he doesn't seem, for some reason, is not able to get close enough to really push that car by Jarno at this point in time. And I'm a little surprised that he's not up there a little closer, but maybe a difference in the setups. Ryan Norton.
So close there. And that was very, very close. And that was really inches between those two drivers. And I think there, Matikayan almost decided to just let Randy Crosno go past. The 35, 40 laps, Crosno into the wall. That is heartbreaking for Randy Crosno there. We're still green, but surely the caution's going to come out. And yes, caution finally is out there. And that is heartbreaking for Randy Crosno.
Oh, absolutely heartbreaking for Randy Crosno. After a dozen laps side by side, finally that they make contact and Randy Crosno's into the wall, and that plays out. Horrible luck for Randy Crosno. What does that do for the front of the race? We've got, you've got Ryan Norton that was up front. Now the gap's going to close. The field's going to be back up, and now we're going to have the Ryan Norton Young O drag race coming off the restart.
And that is a caution that was not wanted by a couple of these drivers. In fact, having a look, I think Ryan Norton was down the pit lane when that caution came out. Yeah, he was.
Oh, yes, he was.
So, Ryan Norton is going... and I'm having a look, and you cannot believe how close it was. I'm having a look at the very... Literally, he crosses the line. He gets one car length inside, and then the caution comes out. I think he's just okay with that. But, my God, that was close for Ryan Norton, as he was desperate for fuel.
Well, that's the thing, is he had to pit for fuel right there. So with this caution coming out, when he crossed that line, it's showing him currently in 7th position. If that is the case, he got, basically his pit strategy just got completely thwarted by that caution, because he did not want a caution under these conditions. He wanted everybody to pit under green. So now he's back in 7th position and having to make his way back up through the remainder of this race. Well, obviously we know his car is fast enough, but, you know, this is not what he was hoping for at all.
But let's swing it back around. He's made his pit stop, and all the other drivers have to do so. And Ryan Norton, I have to say to you, we just had to look at the replay there. You're 1.5 car lengths inside the pit lane when that caution came out. How much was your heart racing just then?
Oh, needless to say, it was a little bit. I didn't know I was inside the cone. I just saw it come on, and by the time I was looking, I knew I was well past the cone, so I was just like, well, we'll see what happens. But luckily it didn't want to see the caution, but at least it went my way as far as that goes.
And it looked like that's going to put you back into the catbird seat on this race. You had a pretty good race so far. You stretched to get up to over 5 seconds on that green flag run. I'm guessing you would prefer green flag pit stops, as your advantage was huge. And now it looks like you're going to have to deal with a couple of other drivers coming down into pit lane, starting behind you, and your gap's pretty much negated.
Yep, we'll see. I found some things that I didn't, or at least a little surprising, I should say. So we'll have to see how it plays out. I definitely like the car I have right now, so they got to fight no matter what they do.
And good luck in that number 84 Make-A-Wish machine. We'll see you at the end of the race.
Yep, thanks.
And with everybody pitting out there now, Ryan Norton is still registered as your leader. Young O in second, Yves Wanner in third place. Carlos Bolanos Jr. Is going to be fourth, and Giorgio Ponte in fifth place. So now what we're going to see is possibly a restart battle between Ryan Norton and Young O. And so far we've seen that Ryan Norton definitely seems to have the faster machine. His car seems to be very dialed in for this track today. So we're going to see if that works in his advantage right off the start.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one thing that we had to say, the number 5 machine of Ellis Stevens got himself down almost a lap on that pit stop. He got himself a black flag coming in for speeding too much in pit lane, and what that essentially meant is, if I'm correct, he lost himself a ton of time, which is hugely disappointing for him, as at that point he was riding all the way in the second position. But to just take you back to that incident with Randy Krosno, he was on the working the outside of Johanna Matikayan. Those guys have been side by side for 40 laps. And this is one of those things that, you know, the speeds these guys are traveling, 215 miles an hour going into the corners, losing pretty much absolutely nothing. It's a case of one driver makes the tiniest bit of mistake, as Matikayan did, coming up, you know, just a tyre width. That was the difference. And it's game over.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. When we talked about that, you know, during that entire race, it was really great racing for both drivers, and there was many times that we thought they were going to get into each other, and that's all it took. When you're driving that close, you're on the track, it's wheel to wheel right there, and it just takes that 2-3 feet sometimes, and that's enough to cause a serious accident.
So we're going to reset the field for you. Ryan Norton, your race leader. Young O in the second position, Yves Wanner in third, Carlos Bolanos Jr. in fourth, Giorgio Ponte having a great drive in the fifth position, Dave Jinks, John Ayles, Johanna Matikayan, Danny Yench, and Ellis Stevens running out your top 10. 10 drivers on the lead lap. Then Alan Wilson in 12th, Alan Wilson in 11th, Randy Krosno 12th, David Ward in 13th, Robert Carlson in 14th, then Pham and Bordeaux running out the guys on the racetrack, with Jonathan Goh, Kaniko Brandt, Jason Pascal, and Philippe Lambert rounding out your list of retirement. The pace car making that move down towards pit lane once again. Here it is, Norton versus O, as they come down. They've got 59 laps left to go here at the Chicago 300. Green flag.
Ryan Norton off to a great restart. Young O right behind him. We'll see if Young O can hold on to him, or what's going on. It looks like he's closing up the gap real quick. I have a funny feeling that at some point in this race we're going to see a similar battle as we saw from Jarno and Randy.
It started already.
There it comes.
Young O
we're going to see how long they can hold on to it.
We've seen Young O's had a little bit of difficulty working in traffic there, pinching Ryan Norton all the way down to the inside white lines. They come into the corners. Oh, versus Norton, and these two drivers race a lot on the racetrack. They are both fearsome competitors, and look at the gap between those on the back straightaway. Inches there. Oh, not taking anything there from Norton. Norton not getting anything. Great close racing, and oh, having to lose himself a bit of momentum, but too wide racing at the front here for the lead. And oh, so close there coming down into turn number 1.
Yeah, Young O almost putting the intimidation factor on Ryan Norton, kind of wobbling down there, kind of looking at it, I'm going to get as close as I possibly can, probably trying to get inside his head. Ryan Norton having none of that, keeping his car down, running his line, running his race, because he knows if he keeps his line down, does not make a mistake, Young O is not going to be able to pass him no matter how many laps he gets around, unless there's some kind of a situation where he is forced to lift.
But let's not forget, he doesn't need to get around him. He just needs to get his nose ahead of the nose of Ryan Norton. At the line last time by, 49 one-thousandths of a second was the gap between those two drivers working through turn number 3 and 4. Absolutely nothing except for a piece of paper between these two drivers. As they come across the line this time, the gap down to 29 one-thousandths of a second. Young O, Ryan Norton putting on a great clinic in two-wide racing here at Chicagoland, and this is either going to end in tears or one of the best runs we've seen in Ultimate Indycar Series history, as Young O is working that high line pretty much to perfection, and Ryan Norton is doing exactly the same on the inside line.
And we're going to see whether we're going to have effect here, whether Young O can continue to run that without his car pushing up, without having any trouble, and whether or not Ryan Norton can keep that car down, because if he pushes up the racetrack, both drivers could be out of it for today. So once again, you're saying a clinic. Look at Young O not giving him anything, pinching, pinching, pinching. And Ryan Norton holding steady on that bottom line. So this is excellent racing. This is what it's all about right here.
So Young O tucks in behind Ryan Norton to get a bit more of a draft as they come back down into turn number 1. 140 laps have been scored, complete here at the Chicagoland 300. And if you're just joining us, welcome to round 13 of the Ultimate Indycar Series here on Glacier TV. The battle for the race lead. Ryan Norton in the number 84 Make-A-Wish car on the inside. Young O on the outside in the number 10 Peak machine. And my God, these two drivers are putting on a clinic in two-wide racing here at Chicagoland 300. And I have to ask, is this Chicagoland or is this the Michigan 600? Because those two drivers are running this track like it's supposed to be Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. This is great racing. Great. You see Young O back in there, pulls in behind, gets a little draft, tries to get on the outside. Ryan Norton is having none of that. He is not being intimidated. He's saying, Young O, that's fine. You can do what you want, but I am going to run my race. This is absolutely the way it should be. If you'll notice, Yves Weiner in the background, he's just kind of playing it back there. He's probably licking his chops, hoping that these two will go. Oh, touching wheels, touching wheels.
That's the second time they've done that.
Yves Weiner sitting there in the back. He's just waiting and waiting for one of these two drivers to make a mistake, and he will pounce.
50 laps to go in the Chicagoland 300, and I have to say, if this race goes green to the end, and if this race carries on the way it is, this is going to be a race for the ages, as Young O and Ryan Norton are currently battling for the race lead. Yves Weiner is currently sat in the third position.
Look at Young O getting his wheels right inside, right next to that side pod there, Ryan Norton there, right in between the wheels. It doesn't get any closer than that. One twitch and it's over for both drivers.
And I have to say, great, respectful driving between both of them. Ryan Norton is being pinched all the way down to that white line by Young O, but Ryan Norton is not coming up the racetrack on the straightaways. So big, respectful driving by these drivers, and this really does sum up why both of them are known as some of the best racers in the IndyCar at the moment. Young O, the 2012 iRacing Indianapolis 500 champion. Ryan Norton came home third in the iRacing Indianapolis 500, and they are putting on such a display right now. The gap, meanwhile, between Yves Weiner and Carlos Bonas Jr., third and fourth, is now up to 2.7 seconds.
Oh, again, they're close. Young O is really pinching down, trying to throw that intimidation factor on Ryan Norton. That's just amazing.
To just step aside from this battle for one quick second, we just had update on the number 34 machine of Jarno Matikayan. He was involved in an incident with David Ward earlier on in this race, and that 34 machine of Matikayan has been struggling with the handling. The car is very, very tight at the moment going into the corners, and that is why he is scored as 4 laps down in the 15th position.
Oh, and that's unfortunate because if you remember back in the race, Jarno Matikayan was in that epic battle similar to the one we're seeing now with Randy Krasnos early in the race. So it's unfortunate to see that he's losing out to that. So he's run a very good race himself. So that's a little bit of a disappointment for Jarno today.
The laps tick off so quickly here at Chicagoland Speedway, but if you're sat inside the cockpit, these laps as touches the wall! Oh, but I think he might just get away with that. He got himself into the grey. He just brushed the wall with those tyres there. And as I was saying, the laps here, they go on for an eternity when you're inside the race car, even though they tick by so quickly on your screens. Young O is literally driving his heart out on the outside lane. Ryan Norton doing exactly the same on the inside line. And we talked about a solitary mistake. Young O has made the tiniest of ones, and I need to know, is that affecting the balance of his car at all? As I think he pushed Norton down a little bit too far there. He had to get off the racetrack just a little bit to give Norton a bit of room coming into one.
Yeah, and then it makes you wonder if, just brushing that wall a little bit kind of reset his suspension a little bit, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like he's still in there. And Ryan Norton still hanging tough, still running his lines. Can he continue to do that up until lap 200, not making any mistakes? And that's really what it's about. First driver to make a mistake, and that could be it for the race.
And we talked about how the inside line is more prevalent here at Chicagoland Speedway, how that inside line does have the grip advantage and the speed advantage because you lose so little speed in the corners here. However, let's not take anything away from Norton. To run that inside line on this track lap after lap with 18 degrees of banking, you really have to turn that wheel a lot, really have to be right in tune with the race car, going through the weight jackers, the anti-roll bars as you go through this race. And Norton being pinned on that inside line, he's got himself a bit of breathing space right now as Young O's dropped down just behind him for the moment. Young O perhaps cooling down his tyres a little bit as we just move ourselves to the battle for the 6th position. Dave Jinks and John Ailes, and Dave Jinks and Giorgio Ponte and Carlos Bonas Jr. Looks like Bonas Jr. is struggling at the moment in that car in the number 82 machine, making his first appearance in the Afterburn IndyCar Series. Giorgio Ponte in the 00 Samus Freeman machine, trying to work that outside line on Bolanos Jr. with Dave Jinks about 2 car lengths behind.
And up front, it looks like Young O is just kind of, like you said, kind of cooling off his tires, taking a break. He probably about pinched through his steering wheel during that last exchange that they had. Both of these drivers probably sweating bullets at this moment in time. So he looks like he's pulled back. All right, he's going to let his tires cool off, take a breather, kind of get himself gathered up before the next round, because I don't know if he's going to be happy with that, or we're going to see 2 wide racing till the end, probably in another 5 or 6 laps.
And this really does sum up Chicagoland racing. And unfortunately, these drivers do not have the push to pass in this car here in the Afterburn IndyCar Series. And that is what makes that outside line so much more difficult to run in the eyes of an IndyCar Series. Some of the best races we've seen, we've had fuel mixes come into play, we've had push to pass come into play, and that's what helps the drivers on that outside lane work a little bit better. You see there Robert Carlson coming out of pit lane in the number 98 machine after a great race early on. He has faded down to 3 laps down after that incident with Jonathan Goke about 50 laps ago, and they are really racing hard throughout the field there. And it was a good run by Carlson to start this race, but unfortunately his luck ran out, as I say, earlier on.
So, Will, let me ask you, if you're Yves Wenner sitting in the 3rd position, watching these 2 titans battle it out up front, what are you thinking right now? What is your strategy going to be? How are you looking at this race?
If it was 10 laps longer with this green flag run, and I was Yves Wenner, I know exactly what we'd be saying. Let's say fuel. However, caution is out on the speedway here we're having a look through, and the pace car is going to be making that journey back onto the racetrack, and that's disappointing. But the word strategy, Doyle, it's all coming back into play. Will Norton or O try and take tyres?
Yeah, that's going to be a big factor. Will they just take fuel and no tires and try to get back out on the track? Is Young O going to actually try to do this out of the pit box? Because as we've seen, passing on the outside line is extremely difficult. So is he going to try to put himself up front and make Ryan do all the passing on the outside and see what happens with that? It should be interesting how this plays out.
The caution was for John Ailes in the number 14 Old Spice machine. Coming through turn number 1 and 2, he got himself up into the grey. We've seen so many drivers do that already. Smacking the wall there on the exit of turn number 2. Trying to coast his car back down to pit lane. Just would not turn, and then back into the wall in turn number 3 and 4. And it looks as though, thankfully, all the other drivers saw it occurring and moved right out of the way.
Yeah, it's nice to see that that was just a single car incident, and that's too bad for John Ailes. So, but it is a single car incident. Everybody avoided that, so we're gonna gather them back up and go at it again.
Young O and East Warner both looked down to pit lane, saw no one else was coming in with them, and decided to stay out on the racetrack. If everyone had followed Young O down into pit lane, then Norton would have been at a severe disadvantage. However, Young O saw the fact that none of the other drivers were looking down towards pit lane, and with track position so prevalent here, it really did mean that Young O couldn't afford to take any fuel, any tyres. Let's not forget, these drivers don't need fuel anymore, as we're currently working lap 167. You know, they've got themselves good to the end, but tyres could have been an interesting battle ploy.
Well, and that's what you have to wonder, because Ryan Norton being up in front was not using his tires in the same way that Young O was using his tires all those laps trying to make the pass on the outside. And then you had Yves Wenner, who was just kind of sitting back, just kind of keeping in the draft, not really putting any pressure on, is now going to start in the 3rd position. So he has an opportunity, actually, because he's a teammate for Ryan Norton. There is a possibility they could stack up this start and Young O could end up in P3. And apparently we've lost Will, but we'll go ahead and work it anyway.
I'm here.
Okay, wasn't sure, because we usually, if we don't hear you talking or breathing, then we get worried.
Shut up. So to run through your field momentarily, we still have 8 drivers on the lead lap. Ryan Norton, Young O, Yves Warner, Carlos Bolaños Jr. and Jorge Ponte in your top 5. Apologies to Carlos Bolaños Jr. I mispronounced his name for the most part of this race, but hey, I apologise. Dave Jinks is in 6th, Alex Stevenson 7th, Danny Ench in the 8th position. They are the drivers on the lead lap. Alan Wilson is 1 lap down in 9th after being caught out through the pit sequence. Randy Cosno is in 10th, 2 laps down. David Ward also 2 laps down, as is John Ailes. Robert Carlson is 4 laps down. Julian Pham 4 laps down. Joanna Mattikane 4 laps down. Pierre Bordeaux 14 laps down. The retirement, Jonathan Goke, Nico Brandt, Joseph Pascal and Philippe Lambert.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see Randy Krausos after that epic battle that they had. He had with, he kind of set the pace out there for Ryan Norton and Young O with Randy Krausos and Jarno Mattikane having that original battle. It's nice to see Randy back up there in the 10th position, after that great battle and wrecking his car. So it's a good job to his pit crew to get him back out there on the race.
Oh yeah, definitely. And with 30 laps to go, this is going to be interesting. Just saw there Young O on board working under this caution. Young O hasn't raced much in this series, mainly focusing on the roadside. However, when he did turn up to the road racing at Watkins Glen, he dominated. Young O is currently sat in the overall championship down the field in 18th position, only racing 4 races though. Out of those 4 races, he's taken 2 pole positions, he's got 2 top 5s, and he's won a race. So good consistency there by Young O, and any points he scored today is going to propel him up the rankings, and when you consider the points per race there, he is on at least 30 points a race, so he really is one of the drivers with the best average at the moment in the series.
Well, trying to create drama by speaking very lowly. This is going to be a wonderful restart. But, yeah, you know, as you said, you know, things with points and up the race, and I really don't think Young O is thinking anything about points right now, because this is not a position at this time in the race that you find Young O very often. I mean, right now he has a contender in front of him. He has somebody that is racing as well or better than he is this entire race. So, you know, if he's got to be trying to figure out a way, how do I get by Ryan Norton at this point in time? And it is probably not going to be easy because of the way this has been raced out. So this is going to definitely be a good restart. I'm interested to find out whether Yves Wanner, Ryan Norton's teammate, can actually give him some help at this restart.
So guys, strap yourselves down to your chairs. 31 laps to go in the Chicagoland 300. Green flag in the air. Norton getting a good jump, but Young O right back with him. Look at the starting gears on Young O being able to close right to the rear of Ryan Norton as they come through turn number 1 for the first time. Looking to the outside line.
Back to the outside.
Run off the corner. Oh, they touched just a little bit there.
Oh, definitely scrapes the paint off the gearbox of Ryan Norton right on the restart. And Yves Wanner, look at how he's closing up.
And a little bit of front wing damage there to Young O as these two
that's not going to be good.
Bumped a little bit. And Young O now looking to the outside line, but could this hamper his chances at this race as we have got ourselves 30 laps to go here. Wanner getting himself into the mix for the first time. Sat in the 3rd position. Carlos Bonos Jr. in 4th is about a second behind this battle. But look at Young O, Ryan Norton, and he's one to go. And it does look as though Young O has got himself a bit of damage to that front wing, which is causing his car to push us a little bit. But look at it, he still closes up to the rear of Ryan Norton coming down the straightaways.
And then you see Yves Wanner in the back there. He was closing up quite a bit there, trying to get in the fray because it's getting towards the end of the race, and Yves Wanner is also a competitor. So I want to see whether he's going to suck up in there and try to get underneath Young O and try to get that push through Ryan Norton, or whether or not he's just going to be content to ride in 3rd place. I've never seen Yves Wanner be content to ride anywhere but up front. So we're going to see how that plays out as well.
You know that's complete and utter BS, because Yves Wanner loves running behind people if he can save fuel. But he can't save fuel right now. So unless he's saving his tyres until the last 10 laps, Yves Wanner is going to want to be on the warpath. As you see there, Young O, Ryan Norton getting it personal now on the racetrack between those two drivers. The gloves are off. And this is a great battle there between O, Norton and Wanner. And I think that Young O's front wing is caution out. Caution is out.
Oh, another caution. Oh, my gosh. Let's go back and see what happened there.
And it is Jarno Matikainen in the number 34 Glacier Racing Machine coming down the front straightaway. It just looks as though Matikainen, we've talked about how we had issues in this race, and that was just complete and madness, because David Ward went down to the inside and there was half a gap between them, but Jarno just looked as though that the car just speared to the wall.
Yeah, it looked like what we call the infamous in sim racing, online sim racing, the netcode incident, because there definitely looked to be at least 2 feet between these two cars, and Jarno's car acted like it actually bounced off the wheel of David Ward, so that's an unfortunate incident for Jarno.
The field back under command of the pace car, and let's reset this for you momentarily. Ryan Norton, Young O. Will Young try and go and get a front wing? Will he consider trying to bring some of these cars down pit road to get himself some fresh tyres? He is looking down pit lane, and in fact he is going to come down pit lane. Yves Wanner coming down with him as well. This is useful for Young O because it means that he's got someone else coming down pit road with him to get fresh tyres. Ryan Norton out front has had clean air, but this is where things really start to get interesting, because you're going to have Ryan Norton in the lead with old rubber. Young O, Yves Wanner on fresh rubber behind, but no one else really has come down pit road apart from O and Ponte and Warner. So these drivers are going to have to go all the way through the field.
Oh my gosh. I don't know that there's enough laps left, because we know what happens when Ryan Norton gets clean air. And you look at who's behind him. The cars behind him, Carlos Bolanos Jr., not able to turn a lap anywhere near the speeds of Ryan Norton. So I'm not sure that Young-O and Yves Lanner made a good call right here. This close to the end of the race, they're going to have to. They've got a lot of cars to get through in order to get back up and scratch on the back wing of Ryan Norton before this race is over.
But let's not forget, Young-O had some wing damage, and that would have prevented him from really being able to charge his way to the race lead. At the same time, however, we also have a couple of other issues with those two drivers now having to run all the way through this field very quickly as we're working on the caution. Yana Matikayan, you're involved in that last incident, as it looks completely like netcode with David Ward on your inside. A big gap between the two of you, but you just speared off into the wall.
Yeah, I know that what happened. And my replay shows also like 1 to 2 meters between us.
And you'd had a bit of a difficult second half of the race after things that had been going on with, I believe it was a little bit of front wing damage to your race car that was forcing it to push. You had a good run up to before that point, and a great battle with Randy Cosno. Literally 40 laps between the two of you, side by side. And just how exciting was that side-by-side battle?
It was fun. Maybe best part of the race. But I got also my car pushy at that little incident with Randy. No idea what happened.
And unfortunately, your race ends early today. However, hopefully we'll see you at Twin Rim Motegi next week, and hopefully you'll get yourself some better luck then.
You will see me at Motegi.
And as a little treat, because Randy is doing so well in this race, and we don't want to disturb him, we would like to welcome in our second special commentator for the series, Jonathan Goke. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Jonathan.
Let's be very quick about this. Your race ended early. We talked to you earlier on about that car being a little bit snap loose, and it looked as though it got snapped loose again, and just as you tried to correct it, you had a car on your outside who you just couldn't avoid.
Yeah, I just stepped like I barely hit the apron there, and I got Robert Carlson. Had to apologize to him. That's completely my fault. Just a little bit anxious to get back up through there. So now it looks like we're going to reset it with 20 laps to go. This should be fun to watch.
This is going to be fun and some. We've got so many things to talk about for this last 20 laps. Ryan Norton, your race leader, leading the most laps here today, so he's going to get himself the 2 bonus points, pretty much guaranteed now. Carlos Buonas Jr. lines up in the 2nd position, Dave Jinks in 3rd, Ellis Stevens in 4th, Danley Ench in 5th, and then watch the number 10 machine of Young-O, currently riding in the 6th position. He is going to have to do a charge through the field on this restart. He's Warner in 7th in the number 88 machine, again going to have to charge his way through the field. Giorgio Ponte in 8th and Wilson in 9th. Randy Cosno rounding out your top 10, and you're going to have to be paying so much attention to this field, as Young-O not only has these drivers to get around before he can get to Norton, he's also got the lap car, so this is going to get very, very exciting very quickly. The pace car is in. Ryan Norton bringing the field back to racing. Green flag, and look at the mass of cars ahead of Young-O that he's trying to get himself around, looking down to the inside of David Ward just as he blinks out there, coming into turn number 1, able to get past him. Now you see Pierre Bordeaux just moving to the right hand side to allow him to go past, but Young-O really on the warpath here. Ahead of him, Danley Ench and Randy Cosno as well.
Oh my gosh, look at how some of the cars are just moving out of the way to allow the race to occur. Some of those lap cars, so that's good. But Young-O's still got a long ways to go, and look at Ryan Norton is just
yellow flag.
pulling,
David Ward is flipping hard in turns 3 and down the front stretch, end over end.
Wow, that is a huge huge wreck there for David Ward. A enormous wreck as they were going 3 wide into the corner. You had Ace Warner down on the inside. You had Pierre Border on the outside. David Ward didn't realise the fact that Border was so close to the outside, or Border didn't realise that Ward was so high up the racetrack. And it looked as though, yeah, Border just turned a little bit too far to the left. And David Ward, huge incident for him. He is going to have to go to simulated infield care centre as that car flipped number of times there. But this is going to do nothing but help Young O and Ease Warner, I think, because they got themselves around a couple of these drivers. But yeah, I'm just having a look back. There is now only 2 lapped cars. And then Dan Liench, Ellis Stevens, Dave Jinks, Carlos Bonas Jr. But at the same time, this is helping Ryan Norton because it's dictating the flow of the pace for him. And he can try and get these gaps from these restarts.
Well, that's the thing, is Ryan Norton's car is so much faster than the cars behind him, and the cars between him and Young O. By the time Young O gets there, that gap could be as big as, you know, almost 2 seconds. And we know that Young O just does not have the car to catch up to Ryan Norton when you get him flying in clean air. So it's going to be very important that this pack stays tight, and that's going to play into Young O's favor. Then you got Ease Warner, who also gets the lucky charm of the race award for just barely missing Dave Ward's tumbling car as he went underneath him.
So, let's reset this field for you. We are working under caution at the moment. Ryan Norton, your race leader. Carlos Bonas Jr. in second. Dave Jinks in third. Ellis Stevens in fourth. Dan Liench in fifth. Young O in sixth. Ease Warner in seventh. Jorge Ponte in eighth. Anna Wilson in ninth. And Randy Crossman in 10th. And I have to say, Bolanos Jr., Dave Jinks and Ellis Stevens and Dan Liench, even if they end up getting overtaken by O and Warner, who's trying to charge their way through the field, some great finishes by these drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, all through the race, they've been very patient, kind of staying out of trouble. You know, they're not up there sticking their nose in everything, and they're not doing a lot of this exciting side-by-side racing. But in the end, it's how you cross the finish lines, whether it's, you know, exciting or not. It doesn't make any difference. You know, drivers like Dave Jinks, who've had a lot of bad luck on some of these races, is, you know, up in P3, and that's great for him. Ellis Stevens, Stanley Edge, normals, regulars in this series, always putting in solid finishes. And then once again today, you know, you're coming to the end of the race, and here they are.
So, the lights are still on the pace car. We are looking as though we're going to go back to green flag racing with 16 laps to go. And as soon as that green flag... as soon as that green flag drops, it is going to be drama, action, suspense, and mania all over the Chicagoland Speedway, which, Dor, you asked at the start of this race whether or not it was perhaps the most suitable of racetracks. You're going to have to turn that back around now.
I absolutely am. This is some of the best racing we've seen this season on an oval track for all kinds of reasons. So yeah, this has been absolutely a great race on many levels. So I think this track needs to stay on the rotation. Well,
and a quick word from your Glacier Racing Station, the Grand Am Premier Series, the DPing and the Mustanging will be coming to you from Mid-Ohio at 10 p.m. GMT tonight on Glacier TV. And then next week, the Afterburn IndyCar Series will be at Twin Motegi on the oval, 200 laps of the Indy Japan 300. Meanwhile, David Ward, you've had one eventful day, being involved in a couple of moments with your teammate John Goke, and then when it went 3 wide, it all went wrong for you.
Yeah, looking from the replay, it looks like turned in on in a straight line, which was interesting. But hey, still enjoying it. So we'll. Unfortunately, I'm not here next week, so I won't be able to race Teggy.
But very quickly, when are you going to take the magnet out the side of yours and Jonathan Goke's car?
I think we both need to not come to the same event.
But meanwhile, I know it's been a difficult day for you, David. Congratulations, I have to say, on your third place finish in the rookie Indy 500 top split. You led more laps than all the other drivers put together, and it was just fuel mileage that kind of went wrong for you.
Yeah, I didn't really spend a lot of time calculating the ruling, and thought I would try and do a gamble, because I thought there'd be another flag, but there wasn't. So, you know, fair play to the other drivers who finished, and James did a good run.
Well, we will see you later on, David. I'm going to ask you now, you're going to come in, say hello to the Grand Am DPing later?
Yeah, I'll come and watch that.
Well, we'll talk to you later on. Meanwhile, it is time, guys, to get back to the action. The pace car makes that turn down towards pit lane once again. Ryan Norton from Carlos Bolaños Jr., from Dave Jinks, Alex Stevenson, Dan Lienge, green flag, and 16 laps to go left in the Chicagoland 300.
Ryan Norton off to a great start, pulling the gap right off the bat. So he's going to try to put as much space between him and the other cars as he possibly can. Carlos Bolaños Jr. actually able to keep up the draft and pulling up to Ryan Norton. So we're going to see what happens.
Gordon, and that was forgot who that was, but that was Alan Wilson going slowly there, and we're back under caution. I'll tell you what, Young O, who was trying to go, who was going to be 3 wide there, down into 3 and 4. As you had Dan Lienge putting out to the outside of Ease One and trying to make the pass on him, just as Young O was trying to find a gap. And that is heartbreak there for Alan Wilson. He had a great run going in this race, but it just looked as though it all went wrong for him.
Yeah, and as we've seen so much today, we've seen that same type of incident, single car incident, and then you have that little pack of cars, on, you know, where Young O was, and Randy Crosno getting into the back of another car right there, trying to avoid that accident. So, unfortunately for Young O, all this caution is not helping him at all. And it's just playing into Ryan Norton's ability to, run a few laps and stay ahead. So let's hope this race does not finish under caution, and we have a strong green flag run to the end. That'll take the excitement away, Will, and that's just not what we're looking for.
And go back to Alan Wilson, it just looked as though his car stalled on the racetrack, and he was trying to get himself back going, and it just looked as though that car wasn't going anywhere. That's what caused this caution. But this now is helping out Ryan Norton and taking all the advantage away from O and Warner, who decided to pit on that caution 2 ago. But what is going to be interesting now is that you've got Young O in the 6th position, Ease One in 7th. You've got Dan Lienge, who is really trying to race hard late on in this race. We saw him there trying to overtake Julien Pham down the back straightaway. These cars are still not going to be put. It's not going to go to a single file restart for the lap cars at the back on this caution, because there's still more than 10 laps to go when we go back to green flag racing. So these guys are still going to have to navigate their way through traffic, and this is really harming O, Warner, and Dan Lienge as they're trying to get their way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely plays into the hands of Ryan Norton, knowing his car, knowing how he's driven it. He's really settled in and understands this racetrack by now after 187 laps. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm sure we'd like to see some green flag racing from everybody, including us in the booth and the spectators. But Ryan Norton right now is probably a little anxious to see what's going on here, as well as Young O, who was hoping to get up through the field before we could get to the end of the race. So I'd really like to be a fly on the wall in his cockpit right now.
So currently working lap 188 of 200 here in the Chicagoland 300. And I have to say the momentum kind of shifted once Young O and Ease One came down pit lane. I think that for O, it was definitely a call he had to make with that wing damage. However, for Warner, if he'd stayed out on the racetrack, it would have been interesting to see how he could have reacted to Ryan Norton, see whether he could have got the lead. And let's not forget, you don't need to get yourself clear if you're on the outside line. All you need to do is get your front wing ahead of the front wing on the inside, and it's job done. So I think that for Norton, he pretty much knows he's in the safe house now. We'll go back to green flag racing, I think, with 10 to go. So this is going to be pretty much almost a free pass here for Norton, these cautions here at the end of this race. And I think Warner definitely wanted at least a 10-15 lap run to get themselves around the lap traffic and then the caution to come out. But, you know, it's one of these things, strategy. Sometimes it works for you, other times it doesn't.
Yeah, and we've seen that so many times. You know, that was just straight up a call that they had to take a chance because, you know, were they going to get around Ryan Norton anyway under green flag conditions, or was it best to try to set their car up to, you know, have some kind of advantage? And yeah, like you say, Young O had to go in because of he wanted to fix that wing, or he had no chance. But the call by Yves Wanner, you know, that was, like you said, just a strategy call that doesn't look like, because of the series of events, it's going to work out for him in this race.
And very quickly, we're going to go back to green flag racing this time by our Firestone Using the Least Tyres award goes jointly to Dave Jinks and Ellis Stevens. Both of them have made 4 pit stops in this race, less than any other driver. And what we have to do is we'll go back to Ryan Norton. We said strategy didn't work out for Owen Warner. Strategy worked out completely for Ryan Norton, and he was, let's not forget, so lucky as to how close that call was between the caution coming out and him being on pit lane. So let's not forget, Ryan Norton not only needs to celebrate a race win, if indeed he does manage to do that, he needs to go and buy out a lottery ticket.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, we're talking about you know, probably feet by the time those yellow lights came out. So it's worked out in his favor, and, you know, he had an interesting pit strategy there. He went around and pitted twice on the same. Yep, green, going green.
There you are, Doyle Johnson, even he stopped speaking. We're not ESPN here, we care about the restart. Ryan Norton in the lead, Carlos Wallace Jr. in second, Dave Jinks in third. Have a look back, you see Dave Jinks there working the high line with Ellis Stevens getting the jump at him. Move Ellis Stevens up into the third position late on in this race, and they've got themselves the lap car of Robert Carlson ahead of them to navigate ever so soon. But a little bit further back, Young O down to the inside. Oh, Julian Pham, he also gets himself around Dave Jinks. The battle is on all the way through the field, but Yves Wanner is struggling at the moment. Currently sat in the 7th position where he started. Got himself a bad restart, and Julian Pham there running the highline. He's got to be careful. He got himself into the grey there as Yves Wanner now is looking to try and get past him, but Young O is coming down, and he's got himself 9 laps to go to try and get himself some more positions. He has got himself Dave Jinks ahead of him. Robert Carlson is laps down, and then you've got Ellis Stevens rounding out your podium at the moment. Out front, Carlos Buenos Jr. seems to have woken up. He is right on the rear of Ryan Norton as they come down the back straightaway.
And look at Dan Lee Anches, he's moving up too. He's trying to stay right in the path of Yang O, trying to get as many positions before the end of the race that he possibly can. Like you said, yep, look up front, and there it is. They're awake. So he's going to try to make that pass on the outside. We'll see if he has enough car to make those moves.
Oh, no, Young O is bad! Oh, no! Young O into the wall there. Caution is going to be coming out, and it just looked as though Dave Jinks came up a hair, and Young O's day is over.
Oh.
I think that car might, no, we'll say it's going to be drivable, but he gets flipped into the air there. And Young O, after a great recovery, his day is done.
Absolutely. It looks like a car came up just a little bit, and Yang O's rear tire clipped the front tire, and that was just enough to send him spinning into the wall. What a heartbreak for Yang O. Oh, and it looks like he collected up another car.
So, Young O's day is done, I believe. Judging by the first time I looked at it, that was Pierre Bourdon, who just literally drove Young O into Young O as he was spinning around on the racetrack to replay that incident for you. It looked as though the incident started with Young O working that outside line with Dave Jinks on the inside, and it looks as though Dave Jinks just came up about, you know, a tyre. That was pretty much all it was, a tyre and a half. And that forced Young O into the wall. And then Young O, all the cars trying to stream past, trying to get themselves past the incident that was happening. And there was just the one driver that just flew underneath Young O. That was Pierre Bourdais. And Pierre Bourdais' car is going to be severely damaged, but he was 14 laps down and pretty much out of the equation. But that really is disappointing for Young O. With 6 laps left to go, this race has kind of gone from being one of the most exciting to almost a bit of a letdown in this last 50 laps.
Yeah, because of all the cautions, we're not getting that green flag racing we hoped to, the side-by-side that we saw earlier. Of course, that's not to take anything away from the racers, because we definitely not for the lack of trying. You know, we still have some racing going on to go for probably another couple laps. Carlos Bolanos Jr. is probably going to do the best he can to try to get around Ryan Norton. Ryan Norton obviously proving to be the stronger driver for today, but Young O probably had a chance with his car until Pierre Bourdais, when he drove right through him, blew his engine. So that's a non-recoverable event there. So hats off to Young O for running a great race and taking the the risks that he did. But yeah, his race is going to be over, and it looks like Ryan Norton right now is just sitting there with a big grin on his face, because he is definitely in the position that you want to be at this point during the race.
And I have to say, for Ryan Norton, after qualifying, there's some very terse words said on that team radio. He was very upset with the way his car performed in qualifying. But fast forward 196 laps, Ryan Norton in the catbird seat, completely and utterly leading the most laps in this race. All he has to do now is worry about Carlos Bolanos Jr. behind him in the 82 machine, who looked as though he was getting a bit racier in that 82 machine in that last restart. So he still has got to be in a position where he doesn't make any mistakes, but it's going to be interesting these last... I think we're going to go back to green flag racing with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and we can assume, or we must assume, that Carlos Bolanos Jr. being a new teammate of Young O, that he has the same car, or running a car that's a similar setup to Young O. And we saw that Young O had the ability to run side by side with Ryan Norton and kind of threaten him. But the question is, does this driver have the skill level and have the experience that Young O has in order to try to put that intimidation factor and get by Ryan Norton before 3 laps are over?
And we have to always talk about the hard charger awards. That is currently in the hands of Dave Jinks, coming from 19th on the grid up to 4th. A mention also to Ellis Stevens in number 5 from 16th, currently sat in 3rd. All these 2 drivers need to do is complete pretty much 3 laps of green flag racing, and that, for one of those, is going to be an outstanding podium finish for them. But also, let's not take anything away from Carlos Bolanos Jr. starting from pit lane after qualifying in 2nd, and he is currently sat in 2nd.
Yeah, I have to, hats off to Ellis Stevenson, Dave Jinks, Stanley Inch. Once again, we talked about that. Ellis Stevenson sitting, he's on the podium right now. Like you said, all he has to do is complete a couple of laps, get a good restart, and he's on the podium. Dave Jinks just outside the podium. Another good racer, another regular racer, a real good guy, somebody that you like to be on the racetrack with, a very respectful racer. So congrats to Dave Jinks for staying in the race and coming up with that 4th place. And Stanley Inch, another regular. Great racing today.
And we're going to reset it for you. We're going to have 3 laps to go at the line to decide this race. Ryan Norton, the number 84 machine, running for Make-A-Wish Foundation throughout this summer in the Afterburn Indycar Series, is your race leader. Carlos Bolanos Jr. is in 2nd. Ellis Stevens is in 3rd. Dave Jinks in 4th, Stanley Inch in 5th. You see Ryan Norton there moving all the way up the racetrack. He knows this rule books very, very well, and he knows Bolanos Jr. can make the move on the outside line. The pace car pulls in. Ryan Norton going early, green flag in the air, 3 laps to go.
And as you see Ryan Norton getting off to a really good start, really putting that gap on there, hoping that it'll take a little while for Carlos Bolanos Jr. to catch up to him. Oh, no!
No! And that's Julian Pham. On the restart, 2 cars involved, and just like Kentucky, this race is going to end under caution. And it was Dan Liench following the shades of Mark Warmington there. And it looks as though Ease Warner just came down into him. I have no idea what was going on there with Ease Warner, but just coming down the front straightaway, Ease didn't realise what was going on, turned down into him, and after being in the 5th position going into that run, Dan Liench's day is done. Didn't mean to do the rhyme there, and Julian Pham involved in that as well. Disappointment here at the end of the Chicagoland 300, and that is going to be bad for a couple of those drivers.
Oh yeah, that's a shame to see a race that's been this exciting with this much going on and this much action to end under caution. But yeah, Yves Lander, it looks like he just for some reason didn't see him or sneezed or something, that he pulled right down into the car below him and of course put the stopper on this race.
I'm having a look back at the replay, and I'm having a look in super slow-mo, and it looks as though the car just veered left as he put the power down, and let's not forget, he was doing 145 miles at that point, and he, just veered left, so I'm not sure if that was intentional at all. Having a look back on the replay, definitely a big incident there for Yves Warner. And I'm sure he will have to go and say hello to the stewards after this race just to clarify what happened. But it looks as though he just got himself a little bit loose there, coming down the front straightaway as he put the power down, probably going from 1st to 2nd gear. And if you're on those scenes, guys, you know how hard that can get sometimes, just to be able to put the power down as you're going down what is essentially a left-hand turn.
Yeah, you're right. The car definitely veered to the left, so there's a good possibility that as he shifted, he lost traction there, or he got to the top of his RPM range where the peak horsepower is for this car, that maybe the tires kind of broke loose and sent him to the left. And I'm sure, he'll definitely have to explain that, but yeah, that's unfortunate for Yves Lander and pretty much everybody else that was right around that racetrack, and obviously good fortune for Ryan Norton.
So, the pace car coming through turn number 4. After what had been a great middle segment of the race, the last 50 laps kind of ruined by cautions a little bit, and Ryan Norton isn't going to care about that. Driving the number 84 Make-A-Wish Foundation Team Afterburn machine comes down to win round 13 of the Afterburn Indycar Series, with Carlos Bolanos Jr. in 2nd, Alex Stevens is in 3rd. And as these cars come down past the start-finish line, pretty much everyone has now done so. In fact, John Ellis is parking right at the start-finish line. Let's run through your race recap. Your final race results. Ryan Norton in the number 84 machine comes home in the 1st position. Comes home essentially 2/10 of a second ahead of Carlos Bolanos Jr. after starting from pit lane, getting himself up into the 2nd position, with Alex Stevens in 3rd, Dave Jinks in 4th, Yves Warner in 5th, Jorge Ponte in the 6th position, Randy Krosno in 7th, Alan Wilson in 8th, John Ailes in 9th, Danny Liench rounding out your top 10, and then Robert Carlson, Julian Pham, Young O, we saw him get involved in that incident late on, Pierre Bourdon, David Ward, Yana Matikayan, Jonathan Goke, Nico Brand, Joseph Pascal, Philippe Lambert, and Doyle Johnson. As you see there, the Polish victory lap is being done by Ryan Norton. Come on, guys. Drive the race.
Yeah, that was a great race. I think... as we can see in the IndyCar series and the Afterburn IndyCar series, we've had a lot of great racing this season. So, it's great to be in the booth. Sometimes I wish I was down there on the track with these guys, but and each week it's practically a different set of people and a different set of winners and a different set of actions. So, hats off to all the drivers that are participating in this race. So, good job, everybody. We should probably get. We're going to do some interviews here, sir.
No, we're not. We're going to go... No, of course we are. You never answered my question, though. Driver of the race.
Driver of the race. Well, I was trying to avoid your question. I have to think that the driver of the race has to be Ryan Norton. simply because he drove consistently. His car seemed to be the fastest. He was under extreme pressure for many, many laps, didn't buckle, didn't weave, didn't do anything, kept his line, kept his race, kept his nerves, and he's now number one, crossing, getting the checkered flag. So my driver of the race is going to be Ryan Norton.
My driver of the race goes to Jarno Matikainen. He took that netcode to a whole new level.
Yeah. My driver of the race is going to have to be Ellis Stevens. I'm going to get accused of country-based bias for this, but his first race in the Afterburn IndyCar Series, qualifying in the 16th position, getting himself into a podium spot ahead of a number of drivers. Even though he got himself a speeding penalty on pit lane, he managed to stay on the lead lap, get himself back into position. That was a great overtaking manoeuvre on Dave Jinks with 10 to go to get himself into the catbird seat. However, it is now time to welcome in your race winner here at the Chicagoland 300, driving the Make-A-Wish Foundation number 84 Team Afterburn machine, Ryan Norton. You were really, really angry after qualifying with your qualifying performance, but now you're in victory lane. How's it feel?
It feels good. I think I got a little lucky on pit road with some adjustments, but sometimes it takes luck to win.
And as I said earlier, we talk about luck. I measured it, and it is exactly a car length and a half that you're in. So about, if you translate that into real maths, that was literally about, half a second between you hitting the cones and the caution light coming on. However, what I want to do is take you back to the strategy options you played to get yourself out front, and then keep yourself there for the most part of that race. Was that a calculated move to stay out on the track whenever it came into pit lane?
It depends on really when you were talking about. I kind of felt like towards the end, if I went down, nobody else would. And, the old, if the leader goes, everybody stays out. At least you can keep him from winning, if nothing else. So once I got out front, with the way tires are, we don't really pick up a lot of speed with tires. I just didn't see the advantage or even the risk, or taking the risk of, trying to get new tires. So a little bit calculated, a little bit I just didn't have many options.
And in fact, being out front, it meant that you didn't have to put as much pressure on your tyres, which I'm guessing kind of helped you out as well. And if you were sat in the second or the third position, would you have done a repeat of what you'd done earlier and done the opposite to what the race leader did?
Again, it depends. When I pitted early, it was more to just try to make my car a little better in the draft. And, unfortunately, when I did that, it seemed like it was faster out in clean air, and that's when I started to really pull away.
But tell us, my turn, Will. Oh. Yeah, Ryan, tell us a little bit about that. All those laps where you and Young O were going side by side, lap after lap, turn after turn, where you were, you had to hold your line. He wasn't giving you anything, pinching down. How did that feel? How was that part of the race for you?
It was a bit nerve-wracking because these cars are so prone to pushing up, and I knew I had to adjust my car where it would stay down if I did my line right, but when you're running 2 feet apart, things can get a little hairy if you don't quite hit it right. But to me, I felt like if I could just get him behind me for more than a lap, I could start to pull away or make him use his right front tire up. So to see him on the outside, it meant he was still behind me. So I was that was worth it. So.
And coming back to me, it's been a pretty good week and a bit for you, and that number 84 Make-A-Wish Foundation Team Afterburn machine after coming home third in the iRacing Indianapolis 500 last week, winning here today. What's your next bit of momentum going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like Texas. I'll have to see how the racing is there, but other than the Afterburn IndyCar series and the Open series, there's not much going on. So, of course, my son wants his on-air time, but
sounds like your pit crew wants some time.
Yeah, but just I don't know where we're racing next week, but try to do good there. And Texas and Richmond are coming up, so those should be fun.
Woohoo! Well, congratulations on your race win, Ryan. Coming home in the first position in that Make-A-Wish Foundation machine. We are going to talk next to Dave Jinks. She came home in the fourth position. You lost out to in the podium just on the last couple of laps there. I believe it was the penultimate restart to Ellis Stevens. This is a good finish for you in the number 76 West USA car.
Yeah, thanks, Will. And Ellis did snooker me on that last restart. Not much I could do there. All in all, it was very fun.
I have to ask you the question, you know, coming down with those 15 laps to go almost, with knowing that Young O, Eves One were right behind, trying to side their way through the field, how much attention were you paying to the cars coming from behind in relation to the cars you were trying to overtake out front? Oh, he's gone.
Oops,
there he is.
Sorry. The lapped car of Carlson a few laps ahead was right in front of me. I checked up pretty hard going into 3 and 4 and was just gaining the momentum back. I knew Yang was there on the outside going into 1, and I took a shallow line necessarily, just pushed just the tiniest bit up. I guess he didn't think he had enough room.
And that was a bit disappointing for you at the end of the race. You did, however, manage to come home in the 4th position. You really are the king of consistency in the Afterburn IndyCar series. And moving on to the Motegi doubleheader over the next couple of weeks, are you hoping to keep that momentum, that consistency going?
That's been my goal all season so far, is just to try to run consistent races. I know I don't generally have the fastest car, but if I can run with those guys, I should have a consistent finish. I haven't run Motegi yet, so we'll see.
Now, Wesley, well done on your 4th place finish in the Chicagoland 300. Meanwhile, guten Abend, Yves Weiner.
Ja, guten Abend, Will. Geht's?
I'm good, thanks. Came home 5th in the number 88 machine. I'm going to have to ask you the most important question first. Looking back, do you think that it was the right call to come down pit road?
Yeah, no, it wasn't, but I was just trying to get back with Yang Wu to the lead, and yeah, we couldn't manage to do this. So pretty disappointing for me. I could have at least take 2nd.
And had we have had a longer green flag run at the end rather than the kind of fragmentation of the cautions, do you think that you would have had the opportunity to at least get back into contention working with Young, or was it a case of there was just too much traffic on the racetrack?
Yeah, I have to say it would be very difficult because the car in traffic is so hard to drive, and even if you can drive easily on the outside, you couldn't manage to pass their result with Yang against Ryan, and also Randy with Jarno.
And you again are a driver who loves consistency in this series. A top 5s, you know, are kind of at least what you aspire to get in each race. We go to Motegi for the double header in the next couple of weeks. And Motegi is a very new track. I know that you and your guys haven't worked as much on Motegi as you have elsewhere. But how well do you expect to do once we make that trip over the Pacific Ocean to Japan?
I think we'll be pretty okay there. Should be. I mean, we don't have yet a very good setup, but with the setup we have now, I think we can make at least a top 10. And I think we'll improve a little.
Well done on your 5th position, coming home 5th in the Chicagoland 300. We normally end up talking to this guy by about halfway, but the last couple of weeks, the last month or so, he's got so sick and tired of us that he decided to race more often and not get involved in wrecks. Randy Cosner, how you doing?
Good. I want to appreciate y'all for the motivation that you've given me to make sure I finish these races. Thank you.
So that number 4 AeroX racing machine came home in 7th position. You had that great 40-lap battle with Jarno Matikainen, literally inches apart on you in the racetrack, and then it just all went wrong for you, and from there you got stuck 2 laps down.
Yeah, that was. I didn't know it was 40 laps. I knew it was a lot, but it was pretty intense. And the only way I was able to do that is the fact that I know Jarno, and I knew that he could hold his line, and so I could be out there. And there wasn't any give and take between either one of us. We were just hard-nosed racing, and hats off to him. That was a lot of fun. It was good racing.
And going to my takey next week for the double header. First of all, we'll be on the oval, then on the road course. And you're a guy that likes racing on both, but which one do you think is going to be your strongest race?
Oh, by far the oval. During week 13, I raced there a couple times. Joe Branch has a Friday night league. We raced there last Friday night, so got some laps in there. I actually haven't even turned a road lap yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to the oval at Motegi. That is a fun track because it's not flat out. You have to lift, and it provides good racing. It's a good track. I hope a lot more folks come out for it.
So, well done, Randy, coming home 7th in this race. He's getting so sick and tired of listening to us that he's actually finished. I'm joking, Randy. Great drive by you. What that does is it leaves us about a minute or so to conclude. Doyle. That was an interesting race, but the cautions at the end kind of spoiled it a little bit.
Yeah, I think we were pretty amped up. That towards the end of the race, we were seeing all the action that was going on in the middle and the front of the field, and all the two-wide racing that was going on lap after lap, and it was really exciting. And we really had the adrenaline pumping, and you can feel the excitement. And then all of a sudden, probably drivers at the end of the race, nerves and other things going on, and next thing you know, it's caution after caution, which is always unfortunate, but it's still a good race for everybody. But after you come off that big buzz and that big adrenaline high that we had earlier in the race, yeah, it can be almost anticlimactic. But let's not take anything away from the people that were up front driving. They did an excellent job and provided some good entertainment and some good racing today.
And to conclude, I have to say, not only is momentum key here, Lady Luck always provides a factor in IndyCar oval racing. And for today, it seems as though Lady Luck was smiling on Ryan Norton's time. We'll be back at 10 p.m. GMT for the next round of the Grand Am Premier Series, coming to you from Mid-Ohio. 90 minutes of the Mid-Ohio sports cars in the Daytona prototypes and the Ford Mustangs. And then we will be back next week. Yes, we'll be back next Sunday, as always, for round number 14 of the Afterburn IndyCar Series. Please note the schedule change. We'll be racing the Indy Japan 300 next week, and then going to the road course the week after for round number 15. That will be coming to you next Sunday. We've also got racing from the Talk Creek Racing Touring Car Championship and the Talk Creek Racing Summer Super Cup next week as well. For more information on that, go to glaciertv.com. Meanwhile, from myself, from Yoni Backman and Doyle Johnson, very good evening to you.
Good night, everybody.